Ambassador Andrew Shaw's eyes snap open as he registers a presence in his quarters. Standing at the foot of his bed, illuminated by the soft glow of distant stars through the viewport, is Princess Selene, youngest daughter of Queen Zarathul. Her iridescent skin shimmers in the low light, forearms gracefully arranged in a posture of feigned embarrassment. "Oh my, I seem to have lost my way again," she coos, her diaphanous garment leaving little to the imagination. Andrew sighs inwardly. This marks the third time in as many weeks that one of the Queen's daughters has accidentally entered his room aboard the Barzan diplomatic vessel, Celestial Harmony. Each incident follows the same pattern: a scantily clad princess, feigned confusion, and an increasingly transparent attempt at seduction. The seasoned diplomat rises from his bed, his muscular frame tensing as he assesses the situation. At 35, Andrew has navigated countless delicate negotiations, but the Barzans present a unique challenge. Their matriarchal society, known for both striking beauty and labyrinthine social hierarchies, has locked Earth's United Federation in a high-stakes dance for access to crucial rare earth minerals. "Princess Selene," Andrew addresses her formally, "allow me to escort you back to your quarters." As they exit his room, Andrew's mind races. Queen Zarathul's intentions are clear. She seeks a political marriage alliance to cement interspecies relations. These nocturnal intrusions are undoubtedly part of a larger scheme to manipulate him, and by extension, Earth's negotiating position. The stakes couldn't be higher. A misstep in these negotiations could result in Earth being cut off from vital trade routes and technological exchanges, potentially crippling humanity's standing in the galactic community. The Celestial Harmony, with its vast corridors and opulent chambers designed to accommodate both human and Barzan physiologies, serves as neutral ground for these tense discussions. As they round a corner, Andrew spots Captain Dexthor, the ship's Barzan security chief. The captain's eyes narrow, darting between the human ambassador and the scantily clad princess. Andrew nods cordially, maintaining his diplomatic composure despite the compromising appearance of the situation. "Captain," he acknowledges, "I'm assisting Princess Selene in returning to her quarters. It seems she became disoriented in our section of the ship." Dexthor's expression remains inscrutable, but Andrew detects a flicker of suspicion. This encounter adds another layer to the complex web of political intrigue and cultural misunderstandings threatening to derail the entire diplomatic mission. As they continue down the corridor, Andrew feels the weight of Earth's future pressing down on his shoulders. He must navigate this precarious situation, balancing diplomatic decorum with firm resistance to the Barzan princess's allure. One wrong move, one moment of weakness, and the consequences could ripple across the galaxy. Princess Selene's hand brushes against his arm, sending a jolt through his body. Andrew steels himself, acutely aware that every interaction, every glance, every word spoken or unspoken carries the potential to alter the course of human history in this vast, unforgiving universe. The game is afoot, and Ambassador Andrew Shaw stands as Earth's first and last line of defense against the seductive machinations of an alien queen and her daughters. The corridors of the Celestial Harmony have become a battlefield of wits, will, and interstellar diplomacy, with humanity's future hanging in the balance. Andrew escorted Princess Selene back to her quarters, his mind racing with the implications of this latest encounter. As they reached her door, he bowed formally, maintaining a respectful distance. "Princess, I trust you can find your way from here. Good night." Without waiting for a response, he turned and strode back to his room, his eyebrows furrowed in tenacity. This situation had gone on long enough. It was time to take action. Back in his quarters, Andrew spent the remainder of the night drafting a formal request for a meeting with Queen Zarathul. As the ship's artificial dawn began to illuminate the corridors, he transmitted the message through official channels. The response came swiftly. A meeting was scheduled for later that day in the grand conference room. Andrew allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction, but his relief was short-lived. A chime at his door announced an unexpected visitor. When it slid open, he found himself face-to-face with Dr. Alara, the Barzan chief medical officer. Her purple eyes regarded him with clinical interest. "Ambassador Shaw," she said, her voice melodious yet professional, "I must conduct a routine health check on all human crew members. May I come in?" Andrew's instincts flared with suspicion, but he nodded, stepping aside to allow her entry. Of course, Doctor, though I must say the timing is rather convenient. Dr. Ilara's six-fingered hands moved with practiced efficiency as she set up her medical equipment. It's a precautionary measure, she explained. We've detected potential concerns about cross-species viral transmission. As the examination progressed, Andrew's unease grew. Dr. Ilara's scans seemed unusually thorough, bordering on invasive. Her questions probed beyond standard medical inquiries, delving into specifics about human physiology and mating habits. I'm curious, Ambassador, she said, her scanner hovering near his chest. How do humans typically select their mates? Are there specific physical traits you find attractive? Andrew kept his answers brief and professional, revealing as little as possible. Human mating practices vary widely across cultures, Doctor. As a diplomat, I'm not at liberty to discuss personal preferences. The examination concluded, but Andrew's relief was short-lived. Captain Dexthor appeared at the door, his posture rigid and eyes alert. Ambassador Shaw, the Barzan security chief said, his tone clipped, I'm here to escort you to your meeting with Queen Zarathul. As they walked through the ship's winding corridors, Andrew could feel the weight of Dexthor's gaze. The captain's presence only added to the growing sense that every interaction aboard the Celestial Harmony was laden with hidden meaning and potential consequences. The Grand Conference Room lived up to its name. Sweeping viewports offered a panoramic view of the star-studded void outside, while the central table, an architectural marvel of gleaming metal and softly glowing hollow projectors, dominated the space. Queen Zarathul sat at the head of the table, her forearms arranged in a pose of regal authority. Her iridescent blue skin seemed to pulse with an inner light, and the intricate tattoos adorning her limbs shifted subtly, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Ambassador Shaw, she greeted him, her voice rich and resonant. I understand you wish to discuss a matter of some delicacy. Andrew took his seat, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. Indeed, Your Majesty, I wanted to address the recent incidents involving... The Queen raised one of her hands, cutting him off mid-sentence. Before we delve into such trivial matters, Ambassador, I believe we have more pressing issues to discuss. Her eyes gleamed with barely concealed triumph. I have news that may significantly impact our ongoing negotiations. Andrew's carefully prepared speech evaporated as Queen Zarathul leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We've discovered a new planet, Ambassador, one rich in the very minerals your Earth so desperately needs. The implications hit Andrew like a gravitational shock wave. This changed everything. The Queen continued, her tone silky smooth. Of course, such a discovery opens up new possibilities for our alliance. Perhaps a more personal connection between our peoples could facilitate a mutually beneficial arrangement. The subtext was clear. Queen Zarathul was proposing a political marriage, likely between Andrew and one of her daughters. It was a bold move, one that threatened to upend the delicate balance of the negotiations. Andrew's mind raced, searching for a diplomatic response that wouldn't outright reject the offer, while also not committing to anything. But before he could formulate a reply, the ship's alarms blared to life. Red emergency lights bathed the conference room in an eerie glow. Captain Dexthor burst through the doors, his usual composure shattered. Your Majesty, Ambassador, he panted. We've dropped out of FTL. The ship is stranded in uncharted space. The crisis galvanized both Andrew and Queen Zarathul into action. Personal and political machinations were momentarily set aside as they rushed to the bridge, trailed by Captain Dexthor. The Celestial Harmony's command center was a hive of frantic activity. Barzan and human crew members worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of potential disaster. Status report, Queen Zarathul demanded, her regal bearing undiminished by the emergency. A harried-looking Barzan officer responded, his fingers dancing across a holographic display. We're completely off course, Your Majesty. Our position doesn't match any known star charts. Andrew stepped forward, addressing the Queen and the bridge crew. We need to assess the damage and determine our options. Is the chief engineer available? Captain Dexthor nodded curtly. I've already summoned him. Marcus Mitchell should be here momentarily. As if on cue, the doors slid open, admitting a disheveled human male. Marcus Mitchell, Earth's foremost expert on xenotech propulsion systems, looked like he'd been dragged from the bowels of the engine room. Ambassador, Your Majesty, he acknowledged, wiping grease-stained hands on his uniform. I've done a preliminary analysis. It's not good. Andrew felt the weight of Earth's future settling even more heavily on his shoulders. Stranded in unknown space, surrounded by potential allies or enemies, he knew that every decision from this point forward could alter the course of human history. As Marcus began his technical briefing, Andrew's gaze met Queen Zarathul's. In that moment, he saw a flicker of something: concern, respect, or perhaps a renewed calculation of his worth in this crisis. Whatever games they had been playing before, the rules had just changed dramatically. The celestial harmony drifted in the void, its occupants unaware of the challenges that lay ahead in the uncharted expanses of space. The unknown, the tension on the bridge was palpable as Marcus Mitchell began his technical briefing. The main power core has been compromised, Marcus explained, his voice grave. Key components are missing or damaged. This wasn't an accident, it's sabotage. The word hung in the air, heavy with implications. Andrew's gaze snapped to Queen Zarathul, searching for any reaction, but her expression remained inscrutable. Captain Dexthor's mandibles clicked in agitation. Sabotage? How is this possible? Our security protocols... Clearly, they've been breached, Andrew interrupted, his mind racing. We need to initiate a ship-wide investigation immediately. Queen Zarathul nodded, her forearms gesturing in agreement. Indeed, Ambassador, I suggest we combine our security forces for this task. Andrew's comm unit buzzed, and he excused himself to answer it. Shaw here. Ambassador, came the crisp voice of Lieutenant Sarah Harper. I've been monitoring the situation. Permission to assist with the investigation? Granted, Lieutenant. Meet me outside the bridge in 5 minutes. Andrew turned back to the group. I'll coordinate with our security team. Captain Dexthor, I trust you'll do the same with your people? The Barzan captain nodded curtly. As Andrew left the bridge, he could hear Marcus detailing the extent of the damage to the Queen and her advisors. Outside, he found Lieutenant Harper waiting. Her cybernetic eye whirred softly as it focused on him. Sir, I've already initiated preliminary scans of the ship's layout. I can interface directly with the celestial harmony systems to track movement and access restricted areas. Good work, Harper. We'll need every advantage we can get. Let's start with the engineering decks and work our way up. As they moved through the ship, Andrew couldn't help but notice the growing tension between human and Barzan crew members. Suspicious glances were exchanged and conversations hushed as they passed. Their investigation was interrupted by a soft chime from Andrew's comm unit. Ambassador Shaw, Princess Celine's voice purred, I have urgent information regarding the sabotage. Please meet me on Observation Deck 3. Andrew exchanged a glance with Harper. It could be a trap, she warned. Agreed, but we can't afford to ignore potential leads. Continue the investigation. I'll meet with the princess. When Andrew arrived at the observation deck, he found Celine waiting, her iridescent skin shimmering in the starlight streaming through the viewport. Ambassador, she breathed, moving closer. I'm so relieved you came. This crisis has me terrified. Andrew maintained a professional distance. You mentioned information about the sabotage, Princess? Celine's eyes darted nervously. Yes, well, I thought perhaps we could discuss it over a drink. This situation is so stressful, and I find human company comforting. It was clear now that this was another seduction attempt. Andrew sighed internally, keeping his expression neutral. Princess Celine, I appreciate your concern, but we're facing a critical situation. If you have information, I need it now. Celine's demeanor changed, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Ambassador, surely you see that this crisis could be easily purposed with a stronger alliance between our people? A political marriage could prevent further conflict and ensure cooperation. Andrew took a step back, maintaining his diplomatic composure. Princess, I understand your position, but my personal status is not up for negotiation. Now, do you have any actual information about the sabotage? Celine's face fell, and she shook her head. I, I'm sorry, Ambassador. I don't know anything specific. I just thought... Thank you for your time, Princess, Andrew said firmly, turning to leave. As he exited the observation deck, he nearly collided with Dr. Alara. The Barzan doctor started, her purple eyes widening. Oh, Ambassador Shaw, I didn't expect to see you here. Andrew's instincts flared. Dr. Alara's usual clinical demeanor was gone, replaced by nervous energy. Is everything all right, Doctor? You seem distressed. Fine, she said hurriedly. Just conducting some routine checks, if you'll excuse me. As Dr. Alara hurried away, Andrew's suspicions deepened. He tapped his comm unit. Harper, I need you to track Dr. Alara's movements. She's acting strangely. On it, sir, came the prompt reply. Andrew followed at a discreet distance, watching as Dr. Alara entered a restricted area of the medical bay. He relayed the information to Harper, who responded quickly. I can bypass the security protocols with my implants, sir. Meet me at the medical bay entrance. Minutes later, they stood before the sealed doors of the restricted area. Harper's cybernetic eye glowed as she interfaced with the ship's systems. With a soft hiss, the doors slid open. Inside, they found a hidden laboratory filled with advanced genetic sequencing equipment. Holographic displays showed complex DNA strands, with human and Barzan genetic markers highlighted. What in the world? Andrew muttered, scanning the room. Dr. Alara emerged from behind a partition, her face a mask of guilt and defiance. Ambassador Shaw, I suppose there's no point in trying to hide it now. What exactly is it, Doctor? Andrew asked, his voice hard. Dr. Alara sighed, her shoulders slumping. I've been conducting experiments on human DNA samples. We've been exploring the possibility of human Barzan hybrids. The implications hit Andrew like a shockwave. Under whose authority? Queen Zarathul's, Dr. Alara admitted. The sabotage, the marriage proposals. It was all part of a larger plan to study human genetics and potentially create a new hybrid species. Before Andrew could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Chief Engineer Mitchell's voice came over the intercom, panic evident in his tone. This is Mitchell. Life support systems are failing shipwide. Oxygen levels are dropping, and temperature control is malfunctioning. We have hours at most before the situation becomes critical. Andrew's mind raced, processing the new information and the immediate crisis. He turned to Harper. Get to engineering. Help Mitchell any way you can. As Harper rushed off, Andrew faced Dr. Alara. Doctor, we'll deal with this later. Right now, I need your help to save this ship and everyone on it. Dr. Alara nodded, her professional demeanor reasserting itself. Of course, Ambassador. What do you need? Full access to your medical supplies and any equipment that might help us repair life support. And I want you to be ready to treat any casualties. As they hurried from the hidden lab, Andrew's comm unit buzzed again. Ambassador, Captain Dextor's voice crackled. Queen Zarathul requests your immediate presence on the bridge. Andrew quickened his pace, his mind whirling with the implications of Dr. Alara's revelation and the looming threat to the ship. As he approached the bridge, he steeled himself for the confrontation to come. The doors slid open, revealing a scene of controlled chaos. Crew members rushed between stations, shouting status reports and emergency protocols. In the center of it all stood Queen Zarathul, her regal bearing faltering for the first time since Andrew had met her. As their eyes met, Andrew saw a mix of emotions play across the Queen's face. Guilt, fear, and a hint of desperation. The fate of both their peoples now hung in the balance, and the next few moments would determine whether they faced this crisis as allies or adversaries. Andrew stepped onto the bridge, ready to confront the Queen and find a way to save the Celestial Harmony and its crew from the disaster unfolding around them. Andrew stepped onto the bridge, his mind racing with the implications of Dr. Alara's revelation. Queen Zarathul's eyes met his, a flicker of guilt passing across her face. Before either could speak, Chief Engineer Mitchell's voice crackled over the intercom once more. Oxygen levels critical. We need immediate action or we'll all suffocate within hours. The urgency of the situation galvanized Andrew into action. He strode toward the Queen, his voice firm and authoritative. "Your Majesty, we need to set aside our differences and work together. I'm taking charge of crisis management." Queen Zarathul hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed, Ambassador. What do you propose?" Andrew turned to address the bridge crew. "I want a joint human Barzan emergency response team assembled immediately. Captain Dexthor, coordinate with Lieutenant Harper to integrate our security forces." As the captain moved to comply, Andrew continued. "Your Majesty, I need unrestricted access to all Barzan resources on board. We're in this together now." The Queen's mandibles clicked in agreement. "Granted. My personal guards are at your disposal as well." Andrew tapped his comm unit. "Mitchell, what's your status?" "We're working on bypassing the damaged systems, but it's slow going. We need more hands down here." "Understood. I'm sending a mixed team your way. Do whatever it takes to get life support back online." As Andrew organized the crisis response, the ship's temperature began to fluctuate wildly. Crew members donned emergency suits, their movements becoming more frantic as the situation deteriorated. In the midst of the chaos, Princess Celine approached Andrew. Her usual coy demeanor was gone, replaced by genuine concern. "Ambassador, I want to help. I have knowledge of Barzan technology that could be useful." Andrew studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. Finding none, he nodded. "All right, Princess. We need all the help we can get. Join Mitchell in engineering." As Celine hurried off, Andrew turned back to Queen Zarathul. "Your Majesty, we need to talk about Dr. Ilara's experiments." The Queen's posture stiffened. "Ambassador, I assure you—" Andrew cut her off. "With all due respect, we don't have time for political maneuvering. Those experiments might be our only chance to save this ship." Zarathul's eyes widened in surprise. "What do you mean?" "I have an idea, but it's risky. We need to use the genetic manipulation equipment to create a temporary atmospheric bubble around the ship." The Queen's mandibles clicked rapidly as she considered the proposal. "That's unprecedented. The technology isn't designed for such an application." "It's our only option," Andrew insisted. "We need to buy time for repairs." After a moment's hesitation, Queen Zarathul nodded. "Very well, Ambassador. Let's proceed." Andrew quickly assembled a team, including Dr. Ilara and Princess Celine, to modify the genetic equipment. As they worked, Andrew found himself impressed by Celine's technical knowledge and genuine desire to help. "I never wanted any of this," Celine confided as they recalibrated a complex array of tubes and wires. "The political games, the arranged marriages, I just want to make a difference." Andrew's perspective on the princess shifted as they worked side by side, racing against time to save the ship. The makeshift atmospheric generator hummed to life, creating a shimmering bubble around the celestial harmony. Just as they began to breathe a collective sigh of relief, alarms blared once more. Captain Dexthor's voice rang out. "Unknown vessel approaching fast. We have no weapons, no shields." Andrew rushed to the bridge, his mind already formulating a plan. "Captain, can we identify the ship?" Dexthor's mandibles clicked nervously. It's the Void Reavers, notorious pirates. They prey on disabled ships in uncharted space." Queen Zarathul's face paled. "We're defenseless." Andrew's eyes narrowed as he assessed their options. "Not necessarily. We still have power for non-essential systems, right?" Mitchell's voice came over the comm. "Aye, but not much." "It'll have to do," Andrew said. "Here's the plan. We're going to create a massive energy surge to simulate a weapons discharge. It might be enough to scare them off." The Queen looked at Andrew with newfound respect. "A bluff. Risky, but clever. I'll help implement it myself." As they worked to reconfigure the ship's power systems, Andrew found himself working in perfect sync with Celine and the Queen. Despite their differences, a shared goal united them. The pirate ship loomed closer, its menacing silhouette visible through the bridge viewport. Andrew's hand hovered over the activation switch, sweat beading on his brow. "Now or never," he muttered, and threw the switch. A brilliant burst of energy erupted from the celestial harmony, temporarily blinding everyone on the bridge. As their vision cleared, they watched the pirate ship with nervous excitement. Would their audacious attempt pay off, or had they just expended their last resources in a futile gesture? The fate of the Celestial Harmony, its crew, and the future of human-Barzan relations hung in the balance as the pirate ship's response loomed on the horizon. The fate of the Celestial Harmony, its crew, and the future of human-Barzan relations hung in the balance as the pirate ship's response loomed on the horizon. For a moment, the bridge fell silent, all eyes fixed on the monitor. Suddenly, the pirate vessel halted its approach. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge, but it was short-lived. The ship lurched violently, throwing everyone off balance. "Report!" Andrew barked, steadying himself against a console. Chief Engineer Mitchell's voice crackled over the comm, panic evident in his tone. "The energy surge overloaded our systems. We're losing power across the board." As if to punctuate his words, the lights flickered and died, plunging the bridge into darkness. Emergency lights sputtered to life, casting an eerie red glow over the faces of the crew. "Life support is failing," Captain Dexter shouted, his mandibles clicking frantically as he worked his console. "Gravity systems are going offline." Andrew felt the strange sensation of weightlessness as the artificial gravity failed. Crew members and loose objects began to float, adding to the chaos. "We need to distribute emergency oxygen tanks," Andrew said, pushing off a nearby wall to propel himself towards the emergency supplies. "Queen Zarathul, can you coordinate with your staff to ensure everyone gets a tank?" The Queen nodded, her usual regal demeanor replaced by iron will. "Of course, Ambassador." As they worked to distribute the oxygen tanks, Andrew turned to Princess Celine. "Princess, I need you to lead a team to the auxiliary life support control room. See if you can restore even minimal functionality." Celine's eyes widened, but she nodded resolutely. "I won't let you down, Ambassador." Andrew then addressed Mitchell through his comm. "Marcus, meet me in the engine room. We need to focus on repairing the main power core." Navigating the corridors in zero gravity proved challenging, but Andrew and Mitchell soon found themselves in the engine room. The normally orderly space was in disarray, with tools and components floating freely. As they examined the power core, Mitchell's face grew grim. "This is worse than I thought, sir. The sabotage was extensive. We can't fix this from in here." Andrew's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Mitchell pointed to a schematic on a nearby screen. "The external power couplings are misaligned. Someone will need to go outside and manually realign them." Andrew knew what he had to do. "I'll go. Prepare a spacesuit for me." Minutes later, Andrew stood in the airlock, his heart pounding as the outer door opened. The vastness of space stretched before him, punctuated by the ominous silhouette of the Void Reaver's ship. With a deep breath, he pushed off, using his suit's thrusters to maneuver along the hull. The silence of space was broken only by his own breathing and the occasional crackle of his comm. As Andrew worked to realign the power couplings, he noticed movement on the pirate vessel. Squinting, he could make out small craft being prepared for launch. "Mitchell," he called over the comm, "we've got a problem. The Reavers are preparing boarding parties." Inside the ship, Princess Celine and her hastily assembled team had reached the auxiliary life support control room. Their fingers flew over the controls, bypassing damaged systems and rerouting power. "We've got partial life support," Celine exclaimed as the system sputtered to life. "It's not much, but it should buy us some time." As she made her way back to the bridge to report their success, Celine overheard a hushed conversation. She recognized Captain Dexter's voice, speaking in low, urgent tones. "Ellie, as we agreed, the ship is disabled. Prepare your boarding parties." Celine's blood ran cold. The captain was working with the pirates. She had to warn the Queen. On the bridge, Queen Zarathul was engaged in a heated argument with Dr. Alara. "How could you endanger this mission with your unauthorized experiments?" the Queen demanded. Before Dr. Alara could respond, Celine burst onto the bridge. "Mother, Captain Dexter is a traitor. He's working with the Void Reavers." The accusation hung in the air for a moment before alarms blared throughout the ship. On the display, they watched in horror as small, agile craft launched from the pirate vessel, streaking towards the Celestial Harmony. Lieutenant Harper's voice came over the comm. "Ambassador, We've got multiple boarding parties incoming. I'm assembling defense teams now, but we're severely outgunned. Outside, Andrew had just finished realigning the power couplings when he saw the approaching boarding craft. He knew he couldn't make it back to the airlock in time. In a split-second decision, he fired his suit's thrusters, propelling himself towards the nearest boarding party. It was a desperate move, but if he could delay even one group, it might give the ship's defenders the time they needed. Inside, Marcus Mitchell worked feverishly to restore power. With the external couplings realigned, he managed to stabilize the main systems, but full functionality remained frustratingly out of reach. As emergency power flickered on across the ship, Princess Selene seized the opportunity. She accessed the security systems, sealing off several sections of the ship to slow the pirates' advance. Queen Zarathul watched the unfolding chaos with a heavy heart. She knew she had to make a decision that would change everything. "Dr. Alara," she said, her voice filled with dedication, "prepare the veil." The doctor's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, the veil is classified technology. If we use it..." "If we don't, we'll all die," the Queen cut her off. "Do it." As the Void Reavers breached the hull in multiple locations, Andrew found himself in a zero-gravity battle on the ship's exterior. His repair suit offered little protection against the pirates' advanced weapons, but he used his knowledge of the ship's layout to outmaneuver them. Inside, Lieutenant Harper led the defense teams in close-quarters combat. Humans and Barzans fought side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a common enemy. The fate of the Celestial Harmony hung by a thread. Andrew fought for survival on the hull, outnumbered but refusing to yield. The Queen prepared to reveal a closely guarded Barzan secret that could save them all. And in the heart of the ship, humans and Barzans alike battled against the encroaching pirates, their alliance forged in the crucible of crisis. As the battle raged on multiple fronts, the future of both species, and perhaps the galaxy itself, would be decided in the next crucial moments. The Void Reavers' assault intensified, their boarding craft swarming towards the Celestial Harmony like angry insects. Andrew, still clinging to the ship's exterior, watched in horror as the pirates closed in. His repair suit offered little protection against their advanced weaponry, but he refused to give up. Using his knowledge of the ship's layout, he pushed off from the hull, propelling himself towards a nearby communications array. Inside the ship, Queen Zarathul's eyes narrowed with tenacity. She turned to Dr. Ilara, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "It's time," she said, moving towards a hidden panel on the bridge. "We have no choice but to use the veil." Dr. Ilara's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, the consequences..." "Will be dealt with later," the Queen interrupted, her fingers dancing across the concealed controls. "Right now, we must survive." A low hum filled the bridge as the Queen activated the Barzan's most closely guarded defensive technology. A shimmering blue energy field began to spread across the ship's hull, pulsing with an otherworldly light. Outside, Andrew watched in amazement as the energy field expanded. The nearest group of Void Reavers, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the field, tumbled away from the ship's surface. Andrew seized the opportunity, using his suit's thrusters to make a beeline for the nearest airlock. As he reached for the airlock controls, a stray blast from a pirate's weapon grazed his suit. Warning alarms blared in his helmet as the suit's oxygen levels began to drop. With his heart pounding, Andrew punched in the airlock code and tumbled inside, just as the outer door sealed shut. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Sarah Harper led the combined human and Barzan defense teams through the ship's corridors. The narrow passageways echoed with the sound of weapons fire and shouted orders as they fought to repel the invaders. "Hold the line," Harper shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We can't let them reach the critical systems." Princess Selene, working alongside Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell in the auxiliary control room, managed to bring the internal sensors back online. "Lieutenant Harper," she called over the comm, "I'm sending you real-time data on the invaders' positions." Harper's team used the information to set up ambushes, turning the ship's layout to their advantage. The defenders, once outmatched, began to push the pirates back. In the medical bay, Dr. Alara worked tirelessly to treat the wounded from both species. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency as she tended to an injured human crewman, her earlier reservations about the alliance forgotten in the face of the crisis. On the bridge, Queen Zarathul confronted Captain Dexthor, who had been caught attempting to sabotage the newly restored systems. "Why, Dexthor?" she demanded, her voice filled with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "How could you betray us like this?" The captain's mandibles clicked nervously as he faced his queen. "Your Majesty, you don't understand. The humans—" His explanation was cut short as Andrew burst onto the bridge, his face flushed from his near-death experience outside the ship. "Your Majesty," he gasped, "the Void Reavers are regrouping for another assault." As if to confirm his words, the ship shuddered under a barrage of energy weapons from the pirate vessel. The Barzan energy field flickered ominously, pushed to its limits by the attack. "We need more power," Mitchell's voice crackled over the comm. "I have an idea, but it's risky. We could use Dr. Alara's genetic manipulation equipment to boost our power output." Andrew exchanged a look with Queen Zarathul and Princess Selene. "What are the risks?" he asked. Mitchell's response was grim. It could create a massive shockwave, enough to repel the Reavers for good, but it might also tear the celestial harmony apart. As they grappled with this decision, a new alert sounded from the sensor station. Lieutenant Harper's voice filled the bridge. "Ambassador, Your Majesty, we're detecting multiple ships approaching. Energy signatures match both Earth's United Federation and the Barzan Empire's main fleet." The news brought a mixture of relief and apprehension. Reinforcements could turn the tide of the battle, but their arrival also risked escalating the conflict if they misinterpreted the situation. Andrew looked at Princess Selene, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared understanding. The experiences they had endured together had forged a connection that transcended their initial roles as diplomats. "We need to make a decision," Andrew said, addressing both Selene and Queen Zarathul. "Do we wait for reinforcements and risk further damage, or do we try Mitchell's plan and potentially end this now?" The ship rocked again as another volley from the Void Reavers struck the weakening energy field. Alarms blared throughout the vessel, warning of multiple hull breaches. Queen Zarathul's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the chaos on the bridge. "We cannot afford to wait," she declared. "The celestial harmony may not survive long enough for our fleets to arrive." Selene nodded in agreement, her hand briefly touching Andrew's arm. "I'll go to Dr. Ilara's lab and help Mitchell with the modifications," she said. "We'll need every second we can get." As Selene hurried off the bridge, Andrew turned to face the view screen. The Void Reaver's ship loomed large, preparing for what could be its final assault. Beyond it, barely visible pinpricks of light marked the approach of the reinforcement fleets. The fate of the Celestial Harmony, its crew, and perhaps the future of human-Barzan relations now rested on a desperate gamble. As Andrew watched Selene disappear down the corridor, he couldn't help but wonder if they would survive to see the outcome of their decision. The ship shuddered once more, the energy field flickering dangerously. Time was running out, and the next few moments would determine whether their bold plan would save them all or condemn them to destruction. Condemn them to destruction? Andrew took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "Do it," he said firmly, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Mitchell, Selene, implement the plan." Queen Zarathul nodded her approval, her eyes meeting Andrew's with a mixture of perseverance and apprehension. "May the stars guide us," she murmured. Without wasting another moment, Andrew and Selene sprinted from the bridge, their footsteps echoing through the trembling corridors of the Celestial Harmony. They weaved through debris and stepped over sparking cables, the ship's wounds becoming more apparent with each passing second. As they reached Dr. Alara's hidden laboratory, Andrew punched in the access code with trembling fingers. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a room filled with advanced equipment and pulsing biotanks. "There," Selene pointed, moving towards a cluster of devices that hummed with awe-inspiring energy. "The genetic manipulation equipment." They worked in tandem, their movements quick and precise, as they began to modify the devices. Andrew's engineering background complemented Selene's knowledge of Barzan technology, creating a synergy that allowed them to work at breakneck speed. As Andrew reached across to adjust a power coupling, his hand brushed against Selene's. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow. Their eyes met, a current of electricity passing between them that had nothing to do with the ship's failing systems. Celine's breath caught in her throat, and Andrew felt his heart skip a beat. The moment passed as quickly as it had come, broken by another violent shudder that rocked the ship. They refocused on their task, but the tension between them remained, a tangible presence in the air. On the bridge, Queen Zarathul confronted Captain Dexthor, her normally composed demeanor replaced by cold fury. "You've betrayed not just me, but your entire people," she said, her voice low and dangerous. Dexthor's mandibles clicked nervously. "Your Majesty, I was only trying to—" His words were cut short as the Queen moved with lightning speed, her fist connecting with his jaw. The traitorous captain crumpled to the floor, unconscious. "Take him to the brig," she ordered a nearby crewman. "Ensure he's secured and can cause no further harm." As Dexthor was dragged away, the Queen turned her attention back to the battle at hand. The view screen showed the Void Reavers' ships closing in, their weapons charging for another assault. In the engine room, Marcus Mitchell's fingers flew over the controls, his face illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. "Initiating power transfer," he announced over the comm. "Brace for impact. This is going to get rough." The ship groaned as if in pain as energy surged through its systems. Lights flickered and died, plunging entire sections into darkness. Non-essential systems shut down in rapid succession, the ship sacrificing everything to fuel the high-stakes endeavor. Andrew and Celine stumbled as they made their way back to the bridge, the floor beneath them bucking and heaving. They could hear the screech of metal as the hull strained against the immense forces being exerted upon it. "We need to hurry," Andrew shouted over the cacophony of alarms and creaking metal. "The ship can't take much more of this." They burst onto the bridge just as the Void Reavers launched their final assault. Energy weapons slammed into the celestial harmony, the impacts reverberating through the ship's frame. "Shield integrity at critical levels," a crewman reported, his voice tight with tension. "Hull breaches detected on decks 3 through 7. Queen Zarathul gripped the arms of her command chair, her squeezing hard. "Hold on," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Just a little longer." The ship shuddered violently, and for a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if it might tear itself apart. Then with a blinding flash, the overloaded Barzan energy field exploded outward. The shock wave engulfed the Void Reavers' ships, their systems overloading in a cascade of failures. The pirate vessels went dark, drifting helplessly in space. As the energy pulse continued to expand, it reached the incoming reinforcement fleets. The Earth and Barzan ships faltered, their systems temporarily disabled by the unexpected surge. In the aftermath, the celestial harmony floated silently, its systems severely damaged but miraculously intact. Emergency power flickered on, bathing the bridge in a soft red glow. Andrew let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He looked around, taking in the scene of controlled chaos, as crew members rushed to assess the damage and tend to the injured. Beside him, Celine sagged with relief, her composure finally cracking. Without thinking, Andrew pulled her into a gentle embrace. She tensed for a moment, then relaxed against him, their shared ordeal breaking down the barriers between them. Queen Zarathul observed this interaction with interest, her plans for a political marriage suddenly seeming less vital in the face of genuine connection. A crackling noise drew their attention to the communications console. "Long-range comms partially restored," reported the communications officer. Andrew straightened, his mind racing. This was their chance to prevent further misunderstandings and potentially salvage the diplomatic mission. "Open a channel to both fleets," he ordered, moving to the center of the bridge. As the officer nodded to indicate the line was open, Andrew took a deep breath. "This is Ambassador Andrew Shaw aboard the Celestial Harmony," he began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "We've just repelled an attack by Void Reavers pirates. The immediate threat has been neutralized, but we are in urgent need of assistance." As Andrew continued his message, emphasizing the unprecedented cooperation between humans and Barzans during the crisis, Celine moved to stand beside him. Their hands brushed once more, and this time, neither pulled away. The immediate danger had passed, but as they looked out at the disabled Void Reaver ships still drifting nearby, they knew their challenges were nowhere near the end. The future of human-Barzan relations hung in the balance, with the potential for either a strengthened alliance or renewed suspicions. Andrew's mind was already working on a plan. "Your Majesty," he said, turning to Queen Zarathul, "I have a proposal. Your Majesty," he continued, turning to face Queen Zarathul, "I believe we have an unprecedented opportunity here. The Void Reaver's ships are disabled, but they likely contain valuable intelligence. I suggest we form a joint human-Barzan team to secure and investigate these vessels." Queen Zarathul's eyes narrowed as she considered Andrew's words. After a moment, she nodded. "A bold suggestion, Ambassador, but one with merit. Princess Celine, you will accompany Ambassador Shaw and oversee our forces in this operation." As the Queen issued her orders, the bridge came alive with activity. Crew members coordinated with their counterparts on the approaching Earth and Barzan ships, preparing for the complex task ahead. Andrew and Celine made their way to the shuttle bay, their steps quick and purposeful. As they walked, Andrew couldn't help but notice the new ease between them, born from shared danger and mutual respect. "This operation will be a true test of our ability to work together," Celine said, her voice low and determined. "We must succeed, Andrew. The future of our peoples may depend on it." Andrew nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "We will, Celine. We have to." The shuttle bay was a hive of activity as mixed teams of humans and Barzans prepared for the boarding operation. Andrew and Celine boarded the lead shuttle, strapping themselves in as the pilot initiated launch procedures. As they approached the largest of the disabled Void Reaver ships, Andrew's breath caught in his throat. The pirate vessel was massive, its hull scarred and pitted from countless battles. Dim emergency lights flickered along its surface, the only sign of life aboard the crippled ship. The boarding teams worked with precision, cutting through airlocks and securing section after section of the Void Reaver ship. Andrew and Celine moved through the eerie corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. "Over here," called a human technician, her voice tinged with excitement. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature behind this bulkhead." Andrew and Celine exchanged a glance before moving to investigate. Using a combination of human and Barzan tools, they managed to bypass the security protocols and open the hidden compartment. Inside, they found a sleek, pulsing data core. Its design was unlike anything Andrew had seen before, a fusion of advanced technologies that spoke of secrets and hidden knowledge. "This could be exactly what we need," Celine said, her eyes wide as she examined the core. "But we'll need to be careful. Who knows what kind of information it contains?" As they secured the data core for transport, Andrew's communicator crackled to life. "Ambassador Shaw, this is Queen Zarathul. We've received word that high-ranking officials from both fleets are en route to the Celestial Harmony. Admiral Jackson Thorne and Matriarch Velazine will be arriving shortly to assess the situation." Andrew's stomach tightened at the news. The arrival of such influential figures would undoubtedly complicate matters. "Understood, Your Majesty. We're on our way back with some potentially significant findings." As they made their way back to the Celestial Harmony, Andrew briefed Celine on the impending arrivals. "We'll need to tread carefully," he said. "Both Admiral Thorne and Matriarch Velazin will be looking to gain an advantage in the mineral negotiations." Celine nodded, her expression grave. "And our discovery may become a point of contention. We must be prepared for anything." Upon their return to the Celestial Harmony, Andrew and Celine found the atmosphere tense. Queen Zarathul stood in the center of the bridge, flanked by the newly arrived Admiral Thorne and Matriarch Velazin. The contrast between the three leaders was stark. Zarathul's regal poise, Thorne's military bearing, and Velazin's imposing presence. As Andrew and Celine approached with the recovered data core, all eyes turned to them. Admiral Thorne stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Ambassador Shaw, I demand immediate access to that data core. Earth has a right to any intelligence gathered during this operation." Before Andrew could respond, Matriarch Velazin interjected, her mandibles clicking in agitation. "Surely you jest, Admiral. This operation took place in Barzan space, aboard a Barzan vessel. The data rightfully belongs to the Empire." The tension in the room skyrocketed as accusations of espionage and collusion began to fly. Andrew felt the situation slipping out of control, but a sudden spark of inspiration struck him. "If I may," he said, raising his voice to be heard above the arguing leaders, "I have a proposal that might satisfy all parties." The room fell silent as all attention focused on Andrew. He took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. "I suggest we create a joint human-Barzan task force to analyze the data together. This approach would promote transparency and build trust between our species. We're facing unknown threats and challenges. Shouldn't we face them united?" A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the leaders considered Andrew's words. Celine stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "I support Ambassador Shaw's proposal. Our recent experiences have shown the strength we possess when we work together. This task force could be the first step towards a true alliance." Queen Zarathul nodded slowly, her eyes moving from Andrew to Celine. "A bold suggestion, but one with merit. What say you, Admiral Thorne? Matriarch Velazin?" As the discussion continued, a new alert sounded from the sensor station. Lieutenant Harper's voice cut through the tension. "Your Majesty, Ambassador, we're detecting a massive energy signature approaching at high speed. It doesn't match any known ship or phenomenon in our database." The argument forgotten, all eyes turned to the main view screen. A swirling vortex of energy was visible in the distance, growing larger by the second. "Threat assessment?" Queen Zarathul demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty," Harper replied, his voice tight. "But the energy output suggests a level of technology far beyond our own." The atmosphere on the bridge shifted instantly. The political maneuvering of moments ago seemed trivial in the face of this new, unknown threat. Admiral Thorne was the first to break the stunned silence. "It seems we have a common enemy," he said grimly. "I agree to the joint task force. We'll need every advantage we can get." Matriarch Velazin clicked her mandibles in agreement. "As do I. Unity in the face of this threat is our only logical course of action." Queen Zarathul turned to Andrew and Selene, her expression a mixture of willpower and hope. "Ambassador Shaw, Princess Celine, I'm placing you in charge of this joint task force. Your mission is twofold. Analyze the data from the Void Reavers and prepare our defenses against this new threat." As Andrew and Celine exchanged a look of shared purpose, Queen Zarathul continued. "And to show our commitment to this alliance, I offer to share our energy field technology with Earth in exchange for access to human rare Earth minerals." The offer sent a ripple of surprise through the assembled leaders. It was a significant concession, one that spoke volumes about the seriousness of their situation. As the celestial harmony hummed with renewed activity, Andrew and Celine made their way to the ship's main laboratory, the recovered data core securely in hand. The weight of their new responsibility was palpable, but so was the sense of shared purpose. "Ready to make history?" Andrew asked, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth, despite the gravity of their situation. Celine returned the smile, her eyes bright with drive. "Always, Ambassador. Let's see what secrets this data core holds." As they entered the lab, the mysterious energy signature loomed ever larger on the ship's sensors, a constant reminder of the unknown dangers that lay ahead. The future of both their species now rested in their hands, their growing bond a symbol of the cooperation that might just save them all. As the mysterious energy signature loomed on the sensors, Andrew and Selene wasted no time. They quickly assembled a diverse team of experts from both human and Barzan ranks, including engineers, xenoarchaeologists, and security personnel. The celestial harmony, now partially repaired, became a hub of frenzied activity as they prepared for their expedition to the ancient alien outpost hidden in the nearby asteroid field. Before departing, Andrew and Celine called Admiral Thorne and Matriarch Velazin to a private meeting. The atmosphere was tense as they presented their findings from the Void Reavers data core. "What we've discovered is troubling," Andrew began, his voice grave. "The data reveals a complex network of corrupt officials from both Earth and the Barzan Empire who have been collaborating with the pirates." Matriarch Velazin's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Impossible. Our vetting process is thorough." Admiral Thorne's face hardened. I find it equally difficult to believe, Ambassador. Do you have proof? Celine stepped forward, activating a holographic display. We do. This data trail shows financial transactions, communication logs, and coordinated attack plans. The evidence is irrefutable. As the implications sank in, both leaders visibly struggled with the revelation. The possibility of deep-rooted corruption within their governments added another layer of complexity to their already precarious alliance. Admiral Thorne broke the heavy silence. This complicates matters, but it also underscores the importance of our cooperation. We must root out this corruption together. Matriarch Valazan nodded in agreement. Indeed, our focus now must be on the expedition. We cannot allow internal strife to compromise our mission. With the briefing concluded, Andrew and Celine returned to the bridge, where Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell waited with awe-inspiring excitement. Ambassador Princess, he greeted them, I have something to show you. He led them to a newly installed console, its design a seamless blend of human and Barzan aesthetics. This is our new hybrid sensor system. It integrates Earth quantum imaging technology with Barzan energy field manipulation. The result is, well, see for yourself. Marcus activated the system, and the main view screen came alive with a stunningly detailed view of the asteroid field. Each rock, no matter how small, was clearly visible, along with their trajectories and composition. Andrew whistled in appreciation. This is incredible, Marcus. With this, we can navigate the field safely? Marcus nodded, beaming with pride. Absolutely. It's a tangible example of what we can achieve together. As the celestial harmony approached the coordinates of the alien outpost, they encountered an unexpected challenge. The asteroid containing the outpost was surrounded by a dense field of metallic debris, making it impossible for the larger ship to approach directly. Andrew studied the sensor readouts, his mind racing. We'll need to use smaller shuttles to navigate through that mess. It's risky, but it's our only option. As the shuttle teams prepared for their mission, Dr. Alara approached Andrew and Celine, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. Ambassador, Princess, I have some urgent news regarding my genetic research, she said, leading them to a quiet corner of the shuttle bay. The enhancement treatment we've been developing, it's yielded some unexpected results. Celine leaned in, intrigued. What kind of results, Doctor? Dr. Alara took a deep breath. It appears the treatment can temporarily grant humans limited Barzan physical abilities, increased strength, enhanced sensory perception, and for Barzans it could improve their tolerance to human-suited environments. Andrew's eyes widened. That's incredible, but also potentially dangerous. What are the risks? There are always risks with experimental treatments, Dr. Alara admitted, but given the unknown conditions we might face in the alien outpost, this could be crucial for the away team's survival. After a heated debate about the ethics and potential consequences, Andrew and Celine made a decision. We'll allow volunteers to undergo the treatment, Andrew announced, but Celine and I will be the first test subjects. The medical bay became a flurry of activity as Dr. Alara prepared the treatment. Andrew and Celine lay on adjacent beds, their eyes meeting as the genetic enhancement was administered. The sensation was unlike anything Andrew had experienced. His skin tingled, muscles tensed and relaxed rapidly, and his senses sharpened to an almost painful degree. Beside him, Celine gasped, her normally blue skin flickering with hints of pink as her body adapted to the treatment. As they recovered, Andrew marveled at his heightened awareness. He could hear the faintest hum of the ship's engines, smell the distinct scents of various crew members. Celine flexed her hands, amazed at her newfound strength. How do you feel? Andrew asked, his voice sounding oddly loud to his enhanced hearing. Celine smiled, her eyes bright with excitement. Different, stronger, ready. With the volunteer team enhanced and prepared, the shuttles launched towards the alien outpost. But as they navigated the treacherous debris field, alarms blared across the celestial harmony. Energy signature detected, Lieutenant Harper shouted. It's the unknown entity emerging from FTL at the edge of the asteroid field. On the monitor, a massive, organic-looking spacecraft appeared, unlike anything in human or Barzan records. Its sudden arrival threw the expedition into chaos. "Abort mission. Return to the Celestial Harmony immediately." Admiral Thorne's voice crackled over the comms. But Andrew made a split-second decision. "Negative, Admiral. We're pushing forward to the outpost. This might be our only chance." Using their enhanced abilities, and Andrew and Celine's team skillfully maneuvered their shuttle through the increasingly hazardous debris field. As they approached the asteroid, they spotted an ancient sealed entrance. "There," Celine pointed. "Can we breach it?" Andrew nodded, feeling the enhanced strength coursing through his body. "Let's find out." Together they forced the sealed door open, revealing the vast, dormant facility within. The team cautiously entered, their enhanced senses on high alert as they took in the advanced, alien technology surrounding them. As they explored deeper into the outpost, they came across a central chamber. Celine's sharp eyes spotted a faint glow emanating from a console. "Andrew, look," she said, approaching the device. As she touched it, a holographic interface sprang to life, depicting a long-extinct alien species. A stream of unintelligible sounds filled the air. Celine's enhanced Barzan senses detected subtle patterns in the transmission. I think I can decipher this," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Meanwhile, aboard the Celestial Harmony, Queen Zarathul and Admiral Thorne faced a critical decision. The organic spacecraft had begun emitting powerful energy pulses, disrupting the asteroid field and threatening both the outpost and the expedition ships. "We must retreat," Admiral Thorne urged. "The risk is too great." Queen Zarathul's eyes narrowed as she watched the pulsing spacecraft on the monitor. "And abandon our people? No, we stand our ground." As Andrew and Celine raced to uncover the secrets of the alien outpost, the unknown spacecraft loomed ever closer. The fate of their mission, their alliance, and perhaps their entire civilizations hung in the balance, with answers tantalizingly close, yet still out of reach. The tension in the air was palpable as Andrew and Celine's team pressed forward into the heart of the alien outpost. As they ventured deeper, the narrow corridors suddenly opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. Towering machines of unknown purpose lined the walls, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move in the dim light. At the center of the chamber stood a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with an otherworldly energy that sent ripples through the air. Dr. Ilera's eyes widened as she scanned the structure with her handheld device. "The energy readings are off the charts," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This crystal could power entire star systems." Andrew approached the crystal, his enhanced senses picking up subtle vibrations emanating from its core. As he reached out to examine it more closely, his finger accidentally brushed against a hidden panel. The chamber came alive with a burst of light, holographic displays materializing on every surface. Celine gasped, her enhanced Barzan senses overwhelmed by the sudden influx of information. Star charts, technical schematics, and streams of alien text filled the air around them. She focused her heightened perception on the strange symbols, her mind racing to decipher their meaning. "Andrew," she called out, her voice tight with urgency. "This isn't just an outpost, it's a defense station." Before Andrew could respond, a violent tremor shook the chamber. The team struggled to maintain their footing as dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. Outside, aboard the Celestial Harmony, chaos reigned. The massive organic spacecraft, now visible on all sensors, unleashed a barrage of energy pulses that tore through the asteroid field. "Evasive maneuvers!" Admiral Thorne barked, his fist clenched as he gripped the command console. "All ships fall back to defensive positions." Queen Zarathul stood beside him, her regal composure unshaken despite the pandemonium around her. "We will not abandon our people," she declared, her voice carrying over the din of alarms and shouted orders. "Prepare all weapons. We make our stand here." Back in the outpost, Andrew and Celine huddled with their team around the central crystal, frantically working to understand its purpose. Celine's enhanced senses allowed her to process the alien language at an incredible speed, piecing together fragments of information. "The Void Eaters," she announced, her voice filled with dread. "That's what they called them. Massive entities that consume the energy of entire solar systems." Another tremor rocked the chamber, more violent than the last. Cracks began to appear in the walls and ceiling, threatening to bury them alive. "We need to evacuate," Dr. Alara urged, fear evident in her voice. "This whole place could come down at any moment." Andrew shook his head, his eyes fixed on the pulsing crystal. "No, we can't leave yet. This technology, it's our only hope against that thing out there." Celine nodded in agreement, her hand finding Andrew's in a moment of shared persistence. "The crystal," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "It's not just a power source. It's a weapon." As if in response to her words, a hidden compartment opened at the base of the crystal, revealing two recessed chambers clearly designed for humanoid occupants. "It requires direct interface," Andrew realized, the implications setting in. "But the energy output, it could kill us." Celine met his gaze, her eyes reflecting the same mix of fear and persistence he felt. "We don't have a choice," she said softly. "It's this or watch everything we know be destroyed." With a shared nod of understanding, they turned to their team. "Evacuate the outpost," Andrew ordered. "Get back to the shuttles and return to the Celestial Harmony. We'll activate the defense system and follow as soon as we can." As their team reluctantly retreated, Andrew and Celine approached the crystal. They exchanged one last look before stepping into the interface chambers. The moment their bodies made contact, searing pain coursed through them. It felt as if every cell in their bodies was on fire, pushed to the very limits of what their enhanced physiology could endure. Through gritted teeth, they fought to maintain consciousness, their minds merging with the ancient alien technology. Images flashed before their eyes, stars being devoured, entire civilizations wiped out, and the relentless advance of the Void Eaters across the galaxy. Outside, the battle raged on. The Celestial Harmony shuddered under the assault of the Void Eater, its shields flickering dangerously. Smaller ships exploded into fragments of superheated metal, their crews screamed silenced in the vacuum of space. Admiral Thorne and Queen Zarathul worked in perfect synchronization, their earlier animosity forgotten in the face of annihilation. They coordinated their remaining forces, buying precious seconds for the outpost team. Just as all hope seemed lost, a blinding pulse of energy erupted from the asteroid. It engulfed the battlefield, momentarily disabling every ship in its path. The Void Eater recoiled, its massive form writhing in apparent agony before it turned and fled, disappearing into the depths of space. In the sudden silence that followed, rescue teams scrambled to retrieve Andrew, Celine, and the remaining members of their team from the crumbling outpost. As the genetic enhancements began to wear off, leaving them weak and disoriented, Andrew and Celine clung to each other, their shared ordeal forging a bond deeper than either had expected. As they were brought aboard the Celestial Harmony, the full weight of their accomplishment began to sink in. They had faced an enemy beyond imagination and survived. But as they looked out at the asteroid field, now littered with the wreckage of their fleet, they knew that this victory was only the beginning. The ancient outpost, with its wealth of advanced technology, was on the verge of collapse. Time was running out to salvage what they could, and the questions raised by their discoveries loomed large. What were the Void Eaters? Would they return? And how would this newfound knowledge change the balance of power between humans and Brazans? As medical teams tended to their injuries, Andrew and Celine exchanged a weary but determined look. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The boundaries between diplomat and princess, human and Barzan, seemed to blur in the face of the cosmic threat they now understood. Their journey, it seemed, was just the beginning. Their journey, it seemed, was just the start of a much larger adventure. As the dust settled from their narrow victory, Andrew and Celine found themselves thrust into a new challenge. The ancient outpost, their hard-won prize, was teetering on the brink of collapse. Time was of the essence. "We need to salvage what we can," Andrew said, his voice hoarse from the strain of the recent battle. "Every piece of technology, every scrap of data could be crucial." Celine nodded, her usually vibrant blue skin still pale from their ordeal. "Agreed. We'll need to prioritize. There's no way we can save it all." They assembled a team of their brightest minds, a mix of human and Barzan experts working in perfect synchronization. As they ventured back into the crumbling structure, the floor beneath their feet trembled ominously. Watch your step, Andrew cautioned as they navigated the maze of alien corridors. This place could come down around us at any moment. Their enhanced senses, while gradually fading, still provided an edge as they worked. Celine's heightened perception allowed her to spot hidden panels and concealed chambers that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. It was during one such moment of discovery that they stumbled upon something extraordinary. A hidden door slid open with a hiss of stale air, revealing a chamber untouched by time. Inside, a series of sleek pods lined the walls, most dark and lifeless. But one, at the far end of the room, pulsed with a soft, steady light. Dr. Ilara approached the active pod, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's a stasis chamber," she breathed, running her scanner over its surface, "and it's still functional after all this time." Andrew peered through the frosted glass of the pod. Inside, he could make out the vague outline of a humanoid figure. "Is it one of them? The builders of this place?" Celine joined him, her hand unconsciously finding his. "It has to be. We can't leave it here." The decision was made quickly. They couldn't pass up the opportunity to learn from a living member of this advanced species. With utmost care, they disconnected the pod from its ancient power source and prepared it for transport. As they worked to secure their precious cargo, the asteroid shuddered violently. Chunks of ceiling crashed down around them, narrowly missing the team. Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell's voice crackled over their comms, urgent and filled with static. "The structural integrity is failing rapidly. You need to evacuate now." Andrew took charge, his diplomatic training kicking in as he coordinated their retreat. "Everyone to the shuttles! Move!" They raced through the collapsing corridors, each tremor more violent than the last. Celine used her enhanced agility to guide them past falling debris, while Andrew's heightened strength allowed him to clear obstacles from their path. As the last shuttle lifted off, they watched through the view screen as the asteroid began to break apart. The ancient outpost, with all its remaining secrets, vanished into the void of space in a spectacular display of cosmic destruction. Back aboard the Celestial Harmony, a new crisis awaited them. The medical bay was overflowing with injured crew members, both human and Berzan. The ship's corridors echoed with the groans of the wounded and the frantic calls of medical staff. Dr. Ilara approached Andrew and Celine, her face etched with fatigue and concern. "We're overwhelmed," she said, her voice low. "But I might have a solution." She outlined her proposal, a modified version of the genetic enhancement treatment they had undergone, tailored to accelerate healing in the most critical cases. The idea was met with immediate controversy. Queen Zarathul, her regal bearing undiminished by the chaos around her, voiced her concerns. "The long-term effects of such a treatment are unknown. We cannot risk the lives of our people on untested science." Admiral Thorne, usually the first to err on the side of caution, surprised everyone with his response. "We may not have a choice," he said grimly. "We're losing people faster than we can treat them." Andrew and Celine exchanged a look, an entire conversation passing between them in an instant. They had experienced the treatment firsthand. They knew its risks, but also its potential. "We propose a compromise," Andrew said, addressing the ship's leadership. "Offer the treatment on a voluntary basis, but only to those with life-threatening injuries. Full disclosure of the risk must be provided." Celine nodded in agreement. It's a chance to save lives and to further human-Barzan cooperation in a meaningful way. After tense deliberation, the proposal was accepted. As the medical team began preparations, Andrew and Celine turned their attention to the alien artifacts they had managed to salvage. They established a joint research team, bringing together the brightest minds from both species. The stasis pod became the centerpiece of their efforts, a tantalizing glimpse into the civilization that had created such advanced technology. As they worked, Andrew and Celine found moments of quiet amid the storm. Their shared experiences had forged a bond deeper than either had anticipated. In stolen glances and brief touches, they conveyed a growing intimacy that transcended their cultural differences. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. Celine, her senses still partially enhanced, noticed a pattern in the alien symbols that had eluded their computers. With Andrew's diplomatic insight providing context, they began to unravel the alien language. What they discovered shook them to their core. The aliens who called themselves the Progenitors had seeded life throughout the galaxy. Humans, Barzans, and countless other species were all descendants of their grand experiment. But the Void Eaters, the monstrous entities they had faced, were not natural predators. They were creations of the Progenitors, weapons that had broken free of their control and now threatened all life in the universe. As they processed this world-shattering information, long-range sensors blared a warning. Multiple Void Eater signatures were approaching from different vectors, drawn by the energy discharge of the ancient defense system. Andrew and Celine locked eyes, the weight of their discovery heavy upon them. They knew they had to warn their homeworlds to prepare them for the coming storm, but with conventional communication methods, the message would arrive too late. The Progenitor technology, Celine said, her mind racing. If we could adapt it to our communication systems? Andrew nodded, catching on to her train of thought. A faster-than-light message. It's our only chance. As they raced against time to implement their daring plan, the Celestial Harmony prepared for a potential confrontation with the approaching Void Eaters. The future of both their species, and perhaps all life in the galaxy, hung in the balance. Andrew and Celine worked side by side, their movements in perfect sync as they integrated the alien technology into the ship's systems. As the final connections were made, they shared a moment of quiet intensity, their hands intertwined over the control panel. Whatever happens, Andrew said softly, I'm glad we're facing it together. Celine's skin shimmered with a mix of emotions as she met his gaze. So am I. With a shared nod of purpose, they initiated the enhanced communication sequence. As the message began its faster-than-light journey towards their homeworlds, the crew of the Celestial Harmony braced themselves for the approaching threat. The next chapter of their interstellar odyssey was about to unfold, with consequences that would echo across the stars. Galaxy. The message streaked across the vast expanse of space, carrying with it the hopes of two civilizations. As the last traces of the transmission faded, Andrew and Celine turned their attention to the more immediate threat. The ship's enhanced sensors, bolstered by the salvaged Progenitor technology, painted a grim picture on the main view screen. Multiple Void Eater signatures approached from different vectors, their massive forms distorting the fabric of space around them. We've got incoming, Admiral Thorne's voice cut through the tense atmosphere on the bridge. All hands to battle stations. The crew of the Celestial Harmony sprang into action, a seamless blend of human and Barzan efficiency. Engineers rerouted power to shields and weapons, while tactical officers plotted intercept courses for the encroaching threats. Andrew and Celine found themselves at the heart of the preparations, their recent experiences making them uniquely suited to coordinate the ship's defenses. They worked in tandem, fingers flying over holographic interfaces as they integrated the alien technology into the Celestial Harmony systems. A sensor range increased by 300%, Celine reported, her skin shimmering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. We're picking up detailed readings on the Void Eaters' energy signatures. Andrew nodded, his eyes fixed on the weapons data scrolling across his screen. Recalibrating our weapon arrays now. If we can match their frequency... A sudden alert from the medical bay interrupted their work. Dr. Alara's face appeared on a nearby monitor, her expression a mix of exhaustion and triumph. Ambassador, Your Highness, I've made a breakthrough with the genetic enhancement treatment. As Dr. Alara outlined her discoveries, Andrew and Celine exchanged a look of understanding. The potential of fine-tuned enhancements, granting specific abilities from either species, could be the edge they needed in the coming battle. We'll do it, Andrew said, his voice firm. Adapt the treatment for both of us. Celine nodded in agreement. Time is of the essence, Doctor. We'll report to the medical bay immediately. As they made their way through the ship's corridors, the Celestial Harmony shuddered under the strain of evasive maneuvers. The Void Eaters were closing in, their massive forms visible now even to the naked eye through the ship's viewports. In the medical bay, Dr. Alara worked swiftly, her hands steady despite the chaos around them. This treatment will complement your natural strengths, she explained as she prepared the injections. Andrew, you'll gain enhanced sensory perception, similar to Barzan abilities. Celine, your physical strength will be boosted to match human capabilities. The process was intense, but mercifully quick. As the last of the genetic modifiers coursed through their systems, Andrew and Celine felt the changes taking hold. Colors became more vibrant, sounds sharper, and the very air seemed alive with information. Celine flexed her hands, marveling at the newfound strength coursing through her body. "It's incredible," she breathed, locking eyes with Andrew. He nodded, overwhelmed by the sensory input flooding his consciousness. "I can sense the Void Eaters," he said, his voice filled with awe and dread. "Their hunger, it's all-consuming." A violent tremor rocked the ship, nearly knocking them off their feet. "We need to get back to the bridge," Celine said, steadying Andrew with her enhanced strength. As they raced through the corridors, a new alert blared through the ship's communication system. Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell's voice crackled over the intercom. "We've established an interface with the stasis pod. The revival process is beginning." They arrived on the bridge just as the Celestial Harmony unleashed its first salvo against the approaching Void Eaters. Energy beams, enhanced by Progenitor technology, lanced out into space, striking the cosmic predators with unprecedented accuracy. "Direct hits on 2 targets," reported the tactical officer, her voice tinged with surprised elation. "They're actually recoiling." Andrew and Celine took their positions at the weapons control, their enhanced abilities allowing them to work in perfect synchronization. As they targeted the Void Eaters' vulnerable points, revealed by Andrew's heightened perception, Celine's increased strength allowed for precision adjustments to the weapon systems that would have been impossible before. Suddenly, a surge of energy rippled through the ship's systems. On the main view screen, the stasis pod in the research lab pulsed with brilliant light. The assembled crew watched in awe as the pod's occupant emerged, a tall, luminescent being with multiple appendages that seemed to shimmer in and out of reality. The Progenitor's eyes, deep pools of cosmic wisdom, fixed upon Andrew and Celine. A voice resonated in their minds, bypassing spoken language entirely. "I am Zalthor," the being communicated. "Your need has awakened me from my long slumber. The Void Eaters approach. We must act swiftly." As Zalthor shared crucial information about the Void Eaters' weaknesses, Andrew and Celine worked feverishly to recalibrate the ship's weapons. The Progenitor's knowledge, combined with their enhanced abilities, allowed them to unlock the full potential of the alien technology. The Celestial Harmony shuddered under a massive impact. "Hull breach on Deck 7, an officer called out, panic edging into his voice. "Rerouting power to structural integrity fields," Queen Zarathul responded calmly, her regal demeanor unshaken by the chaos around her. Admiral Thorne barked orders to the navigation team, his tactical experience guiding the ship through the onslaught. "Evasive pattern Delta, keep us out of their primary attack vector." As the battle raged on, Zalthor moved to the center of the bridge, its luminescent form pulsing with energy. The ancient being interfaced directly with the ship's systems, and before the astonished eyes of the crew, the Celestial Harmony began to transform. The hull reconfigured, forming new structures and defenses that deflected the Void Eaters' attacks with remarkable efficiency. Weapons emerged from previously hidden compartments, pulsing with energy that made the very fabric of space ripple. "Now!" Zalthor's mental voice reverberated through Andrew and Celine's minds. Acting on pure instinct, guided by the Progenitor's vast knowledge, they activated a weapon system that had lain dormant within the salvaged artifacts. A concentrated burst of energy erupted from the Celestial Harmony, enveloping the nearest Void Eater in a cocoon of scintillating light. The cosmic predator writhed in apparent agony, its massive form contorting in ways that defied the laws of physics. With a final silent scream that resonated through subspace, the Void Eater retreated, disappearing into the depths of space. Its companions, sensing the newfound power of their prey, followed suit, leaving behind an eerie stillness. As the immediate threat passed, the crew of the Celestial Harmony let out a collective breath they hadn't realized they were holding, but their relief was short-lived. "The faster-than-light drive is offline," Chief Engineer Mitchell reported, his voice grim. "We're stranded." Zalthor's mental voice reached out once more. this time addressing the entire crew. There is a solution. A Progenitor outpost lies hidden in this sector. It holds the resources you need for repairs, and perhaps much more. As the coordinates of the hidden outpost appeared on the ship's navigation systems, Andrew and Celine shared a look of dedication. Their journey, it seemed, was nowhere near the end. The celestial harmony, battered but undefeated, set a new course into the unknown, carrying with it the hopes of two species and the legacy of an ancient civilization. The ship moved forward, its crew united in purpose. While in the vastness of space, the retreating forms of the Void Eaters served as a stark reminder of the challenges that still lay ahead. The Celestial Harmony's engines hummed with renewed purpose as it charted a course for the coordinates provided by Zalthor. As they approached the hidden Progenitor outpost, Ambassador Andrew Shaw and Princess Celine gathered the expedition team on the bridge. The ship's long-range sensors painted a stunning image on the main view screen. A massive structure embedded within a nearby asteroid, its surface adorned with intricate patterns that pulsed with faint energy. Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell's eyes widened as he analyzed the readings. The energy signature matches the Progenitor technology we salvaged earlier. It's definitely our target. Captain Dexthor, now under close supervision due to his earlier betrayal, stood at the helm. His expertise in navigation, despite his past actions, proved invaluable as they approached the alien structure. "I've identified a docking port large enough to accommodate us," Dexthor reported, his voice tinged with a mix of reluctance and professional pride. Admiral Thorne nodded. "Take us in, Captain. Slow and steady." As the Celestial Harmony maneuvered into position, the crew felt a momentary surge of energy course through the ship. Celine gasped, her skin shimmering with heightened sensitivity. Andrew flexed his fingers, noting the brief increase in strength. The Progenitor technology, Zalthor's mental voice resonated in their minds. It recognizes the ship's integrated systems. With a series of precise adjustments, Dexthor guided the Celestial Harmony into the docking port. The connection was seamless, as if the two technologies were designed to interface. Zalthor moved to the center of the bridge, its luminescent form pulsing with increased intensity. The ancient being's eyes closed in concentration as it established a neural link with the outpost systems. The main entrance to the facility slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a vast, dimly lit chamber beyond. Andrew and Celine exchanged a determined look before addressing the assembled team. "We'll lead the initial exploration," Andrew stated. "Dr. Alara, Chief Mitchell, you're with us. The rest of you stand by for further instructions." As they stepped into the outpost, their enhanced senses allowed them to navigate the unfamiliar environment with surprising ease. The air was crisp and oddly invigorating, carrying a faint scent of ozone. Holographic displays flickered to life around them, responding to their presence. Celine approached one, her eyes widening as she deciphered the complex schematics. "These appear to be designs for advanced propulsion systems and energy weapons," she said, her voice filled with awe. While Andrew and Celine examined the holograms, Dr. Alara's attention was drawn to a separate corridor. "I'm detecting life signs," she reported, consulting her handheld scanner. "Faint, but definitely present." Following her lead, they discovered a vast medical bay. The room was lined with stasis pods, each containing a different alien species suspended in time. Dr. Alara moved from pod to pod, her expression a mix of scientific curiosity and growing excitement. "These beings," she breathed, "some of them appear to be ancient ancestors of both humans and Barzans. This is incredible." Meanwhile, Chief Mitchell had wandered into an adjacent chamber. His voice crackled over the comm system, filled with terrifying enthusiasm. "You need to see this. I think I've found the outpost power core." They joined him in a cavernous room dominated by a pulsating, spherical structure. Energy arced between the core and surrounding conduits, creating a mesmerizing light show. "This could be the key to repairing our faster-than-light drive," Mitchell explained. "And not just repair, we could significantly upgrade our capabilities." As they marveled at the discovery, an urgent communication came through from the ship's bridge. Queen Zarathul's voice was tense as she delivered the news. Multiple Void Eater signatures detected on long-range sensors. They're converging on our location. The weight of their situation settled heavily upon the team. They needed to unlock the outpost defenses, and quickly. Zalthor, Andrew called out mentally, we need your guidance to activate the defensive systems. The Progenitor's response was immediate. A series of mental images flashed through Andrew and Celine's minds, showing a path deeper into the facility. This way, Celine said, already moving. We need to reach the central control room. As they raced through the outpost, they encountered a series of chambers, each presenting a unique challenge. Puzzles of light and energy barred their path, requiring both their enhanced abilities and their growing synergy as a team to overcome. In one room, Andrew's heightened perception allowed him to detect a hidden pattern in the floor tiles. In another, Celine's increased strength was necessary to manipulate a series of heavy crystalline structures. With each obstacle they overcame, their connection deepened, both physically and emotionally. Behind them, Dr. Alara and Chief Mitchell split off to tackle their own crucial tasks. Alara returned to the medical bay, determined to uncover more about the stasis pods and their occupants. Mitchell headed back to the Celestial Harmony, knowing that integrating the Progenitor power core with their systems could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. As Andrew and Celine finally reached the central control room, alarms blared throughout the facility. The first wave of Void Eaters had arrived. We're out of time, Andrew said, his eyes locking with Celine's. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. Guided by Zalthor's mental instructions, they began the activation sequence for the outpost's defenses. As they worked, the room around them came to life. Dormant consoles flickered on, and the air hummed with building energy. Outside, the asteroid's surface began to shift and change. Massive energy weapons emerged from hidden compartments, while shield generators sprang to life, enveloping the entire structure in a shimmering barrier. The battle had begun, and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. As Andrew and Celine worked feverishly to bring the outpost's full capabilities online, they knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict, one that would shape the future of the entire galaxy. The weight of their responsibility settled heavily upon Andrew and Celine as they finished activating the outpost defenses. As the immediate threat from the Void Eaters subsided, the crew of the Celestial Harmony began to establish a more permanent presence at the Progenitor outpost. Dr. Alara led a joint human-Barzan research team, diving into the study and integration of the advanced alien technology that surrounded them. Andrew and Celine found themselves at the center of this whirlwind of activity, their enhanced abilities proving invaluable in deciphering the complex systems left behind by the Progenitors. However, as the days turned into weeks, they struggled to balance their growing personal relationship with their professional duties. During a rare moment of respite, Andrew and Celine decided to explore the vast chambers of the outpost. Their fingers intertwined as they walked, the subtle pulse of energy flowing between them, a constant reminder of their unique bond. I never imagined I'd find myself in a place like this, Andrew mused, his eyes taking in the intricate patterns etched into the walls. Celine squeezed his hand. Nor did I, but I'm glad we're here together. As they rounded a corner, they stumbled upon a hidden chamber. The room was circular, its walls lined with pulsating crystals that cast a soft, ethereal glow. At its center stood a pedestal topped with a spherical device. Andrew approached cautiously, his enhanced senses picking up faint energy signatures emanating from the object. Celine, look at this. It seems to be reacting to our presence. As if in response to his words, the device activated. A brilliant holographic star map of the galaxy burst into existence above it, filling the chamber with pinpoints of light. Celine gasped, her eyes widening as she took in the sight. Andrew, those markers, they're not stars. He nodded, understanding dawning on him. They're Progenitor outposts, and those red clusters, Void Eater swarms, Celine finished, her voice tight with concern. They shared a look of unwavering persistence before racing back to the main control room. Queen Zarathul and Admiral Thorne were deep in discussion when Andrew and Celine burst in. Your Majesty, Admiral, Andrew panted, we've made a critical discovery. As they relayed their findings, the expressions on the leaders' faces grew increasingly grave. The threat posed by the Void Eaters was far greater than they had initially believed. Admiral Thorne leaned over the holographic display, his brow furrowed. Multiple swarms, positioned to strike at both human and Barzan territories. We need to act fast. Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. I might have a solution. We could use the outpost propulsion tech to create a network of FTL communication relays. It would allow us to coordinate our defenses in real time. Queen Zarathul nodded approvingly. Make it happen, Chief. We'll need every advantage we can get. As Mitchell set to work, Dr. Alar approached with hardly restrained excitement. I've made a breakthrough in understanding the genetic recombination device. We could potentially create specialized hybrids capable of interfacing directly with Progenitor tech. Her proposal sparked immediate debate among the assembled crew. Some saw it as a necessary step in combating the Void Eaters, while others expressed concern about the ethical implications. Before a consensus could be reached, an alarm blared through the outpost. Captain Dexthor's voice came over the comm system. Unknown vessel approaching. Energy signature matches Void Reaver technology, but the configuration is, different. Andrew and Celine exchanged a glance. We'll lead an intercept team, Andrew declared. Minutes later, they were aboard a Progenitor shuttle, its advanced cloaking technology rendering them invisible as they approached the mysterious vessel. With a team of human and Barzan special forces at their back, Andrew and Celine prepared to board. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor unlike any they had seen before. A mix of Void Reaver biotechnology and unfamiliar mechanical components lined the walls. As they moved deeper into the ship, they encountered no resistance. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a diverse crew of aliens, all regarding them with a mix of surprise and cautious hope. A grizzled reptilian being stepped forward. I am Kravax, captain of this vessel. We've been expecting you. Andrew lowered his weapon slightly. You have? Kravax nodded. We are part of an interstellar resistance. We've been fighting the Void Eaters for centuries, and now we seek an alliance. Before they could discuss further, Queen Zarathul's voice crackled over their comms, urgent and filled with dread. Multiple Void Eater signatures detected on course for the Barzan homeworld. Estimated time of arrival, less than 48 hours. We need immediate assistance. Andrew and Celine locked eyes, the weight of the moment bearing down on them. They had to choose, return to the outpost with Kravax and his invaluable intelligence, or rush to the aid of the Barzan homeworld. As alarms blared and the crew scrambled to action, Andrew and Celine stood at the precipice of a decision that would shape the fate of billions. The battle against the Void Eaters was about to enter a new, more desperate phase, and the future of multiple species hung in the balance. Balance. The weight of their responsibility settled heavily upon them as they exchanged a meaningful glance. We need to split our efforts, Andrew said, his voice tight with urgency. I'll go to the Barzan homeworld with Captain Kravax and a team from the Celestial Harmony. Celine, you stay here and coordinate the integration of this new intelligence and technology. Celine nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of concern and commitment. Be careful, Andrew. We don't know what you'll be facing out there. As Andrew prepared to depart with Captain Kravax and a select team, Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell approached with a small device in his hand. This is a prototype of the faster-than-light communication relay we've been working on. It should allow you to transmit vital information back to us and to the Barzan Defense Forces. Andrew took the device, examining it closely. This could make all the difference. Thank you, Marcus. The journey to the Barzan homeworld was tense, the modified Progenitor shuttle cutting through space at unprecedented speeds. Andrew used the time to learn more about Kravax and the interstellar resistance movement. We've been fighting the Void Eaters for centuries, Kravax explained, his reptilian features set in a grim expression. Many species have fallen to their hunger. The Zarathul, the Nebula, the Krix, entire civilizations gone. Andrew absorbed this information, the scale of the threat becoming increasingly clear. And you found ways to fight them? Kravax nodded. We've identified weaknesses in their energy matrices. With the right weapons and tactics, they can be defeated. As they neared the Barzan homeworld, Andrew used the communication relay to transmit this vital information to the planet's defense forces. The device hummed with energy, sending data faster than he could comprehend. Meanwhile, back at the Progenitor outpost, Celine threw herself into her work. She collaborated closely with Dr. Alara, refining the genetic recombination device they had discovered. "We need volunteers," Dr. Alara said, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. "The potential benefits are enormous, but so are the risks." Several crew members stepped forward, willing to undergo the experimental procedure. Celine watched as the first volunteer entered the device, his body enveloped in a shimmering field of energy. Moments later, he emerged, his appearance subtly altered. His eyes now had a distinctly Barzan sheen, and his skin bore faint, iridescent patterns. "How do you feel?" Celine asked, approaching cautiously. The crewman flexed his fingers, a look of wonder on his face. I can sense the Progenitor technology. It's like I can reach out and touch it with my mind." As more volunteers underwent the process, Celine noticed a pattern emerging. The hybrids showed remarkable abilities to interface with Progenitor tech, but they also exhibited unexpected side effects. Some experienced intense mood swings, while others underwent more dramatic physical changes. While Celine grappled with these developments, Andrew's team arrived at the Barzan homeworld. The planet's defense forces were in disarray, clearly unprepared for the scale of the incoming threat. Andrew stepped off the shuttle, immediately taking charge. He gathered the Barzan commanders, using his diplomatic skills to bridge their differences and unite them under a common strategy. "We have intel on the Void Eater's weaknesses," he explained, activating a holographic display. "If we target these specific points in their energy matrices, we can maximize our effectiveness." The Barzan leaders listened intently, their initial skepticism giving way to cautious hope. As they implemented Andrew's strategy, the first wave of Void Eaters appeared on the horizon. The battle erupted with furious intensity. Barzan's ships, newly equipped with modified weapons based on Andrew's intel, tore into the Void Eater swarm. Explosions lit up the sky as the invaders' energy matrices destabilized and collapsed. Yet for every Void Eater they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. Andrew found himself in the thick of the fight, coordinating defense patterns and relaying critical information. Back at the outpost, Celine made a breakthrough. Poring over the Progenitor star map, she noticed a pattern in the Void Eater's movements. "It's not random," she muttered, her eyes widening. "There's a central intelligence guiding them, a hive mind." She rushed to the communication relay, eager to share this vital information with Andrew. But as she reached for the controls, the device sparked and went dark. "No, no, no," Celine said, frantically trying to reactivate it. "Marcus, the relay's down." As the engineering team scrambled to repair the device, Celine realized the gravity of their situation. Without this information, Andrew and the Barzan forces were fighting blind against an enemy with a hidden advantage. Her gaze fell on the genetic recombination device, and a desperate plan formed in her mind. "Dr. Alara," she called out, "I need you to perform the full recombination process on me." Dr. Alara's eyes widened. "Celine, the risks—" "We don't have a choice," Celine interrupted. "If I can pilot a Progenitor ship, I might be able to reach the Barzan homeworld in time to make a difference." Despite protests from Queen Zarathul and Admiral Thorne, Celine stood firm. She entered the device, bracing herself for what was to come. The pain was beyond anything she had imagined. It felt as if every cell in her body was being torn apart and reassembled. She screamed, her voice distorting as her vocal cords transformed. When it was over, Celine emerged changed. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, her eyes glowed with an inner light, and she could feel the Progenitor technology humming around her like a living thing. As she prepared to depart in a newly activated Progenitor vessel, alarms blared throughout the outpost. A massive energy surge ripped open a wormhole near the station, and through it emerged a colossal Void Eater. "By the stars," Queen Zarthul gasped. "What is that?" Zalthor's voice echoed in Celine's mind. "A Void Eater Queen, the source of the Hive mind. It's been drawn to the energy of our activated technology." Celine froze. torn between her desire to help Andrew and the immediate threat to the outpost. As the Void Eater Queen advanced, its massive form blotting out the stars, Celine realized that her transformation had given her a deeper connection to the Progenitor technology, and possibly the key to defeating this cosmic monster. With the fate of multiple species hanging in the balance, Celine faced an impossible choice. The battle raged on two fronts, Andrew fighting desperately to save the Barzan homeworld, and Celine confronting a threat that could end everything they had fought for. As the Void Eater Queen's tentacles reached towards the outpost, Celine made her decision. She raised her hands, feeling the Progenitor technology responding to her will. Energy crackled around her as she prepared to face the greatest challenge of her life. Energy crackled around her as she prepared to face the greatest challenge of her existence. Suddenly, a piercing, psychic shriek tore through Celine's mind. She staggered, clutching her head as vivid images flashed before her eyes. The Void Eater. Queen's massive form seemed to ripple, its surface pulsing with otherworldly energy. What's happening? Queen Zarathul called out, her voice filled with concern. Celine's eyes widened as understanding dawned. It's communicating, sending out a signal across space. Thousands of light years away, Andrew felt a sudden jolt. In the midst of coordinating Barzan defense forces, he stumbled, nearly dropping his tactical display. A strange tingling sensation spread through his body, followed by an abrupt clarity of perception. "Sir, are you all right?" a nearby Barzan officer asked. Andrew blinked, his vision sharpening. The Void Eater swarm attacking the planet seemed to move in slow motion. He could sense their trajectories, anticipate their movements with uncanny precision. "I'm fine," he replied, a hint of wonder in his voice. "Better than fine. I can see them. Really see them." Back at the Progenitor outpost, Celine's transformed physiology resonated with the alien frequencies. The visions intensified, revealing flashes of a distant past. She saw vast laboratories, beings of pure energy conducting experiments on a cosmic scale. The birth of the Void Eaters folded before her, creatures designed to harness and transport immense quantities of energy across the galaxy. "Dr. Alara," Celine gasped, her voice strained. "The Void Eaters. They weren't always like this. They were created by the Progenitors as tools, as a method of energy transfer." Dr. Alara's eyes widened. "That explains their insatiable hunger for energy. But something must have gone wrong." Celine nodded, her mind racing. This knowledge, it could be the key to defeating them. As Celine processed this revelation, she felt a deep connection to the Progenitor technology surrounding her. Acting on instinct, she raised her hands, willing the outpost to respond. To her amazement, dormant systems began to activate. The station shuddered, mechanical tendrils extending from its surface. They intertwined, forming a massive energy collection array that dwarfed the outpost itself. "By the stars," Admiral Thorne breathed, staring at the transformation in awe. Celine's eyes glowed with an inner light as understanding dawned. "This array, we can use it to draw the Void Eater Queen's energy, neutralize the threat." Without hesitation, she interfaced with the newly formed array, directing its focus towards the colossal entity before them. The space between them crackled with energy as the battle began in earnest. On the Barzan homeworld, Andrew utilized his newfound ability to devastating effect. He coordinated the planet's defenses with preternatural accuracy, anticipating and countering the Void Eaters' attacks before they could form. "How are you doing this?" Captain Kravax asked, his reptilian features etched with both awe and suspicion. Andrew shook his head, focusing on the tactical display. "I'm not sure, but we need to use every advantage we have." As the tide of battle slowly turned in their favor, Kravax's expression darkened. He gestured towards a group of ships on the display's edge. "Those vessels, their energy signatures are off. They bear signs of Void Reaver modification." Andrew's blood ran cold. "Traitors, here!" Before they could investigate further, a garbled transmission broke through their communications. Andrew recognized Celine's voice, distorted and fragmented. "You energy drain. Key to defeating reconfigure defenses. The transmission cut out, leaving Andrew with a spark of inspiration. He turned to the Barzan commanders, his voice urgent. We need to reconfigure the planetary defense grid, mimic an energy collection array, like the one at the outpost. Protests immediately erupted. That would leave us vulnerable, one commander argued. It's our best chance, Andrew countered. Trust me. As the Barzan forces scrambled to implement Andrew's risky plan, the space around both the homeworld and the Progenitor outpost lit up with massive energy discharges. The Void Eaters reacted with increasing fury, their attacks growing more erratic and vicious. Celine grappled with the immense power flowing through the outpost's array. Her transformed body pushed to its limits. Sweat beaded on her brow as she struggled to maintain control. We can't keep this up forever, Dr. Ilara warned, monitoring the station systems. The strain is too great. Queen Zarathul nodded grimly. Begin evacuating non-essential personnel to the Celestial Harmony. We must be prepared for the worst. As chaos reigned, a new presence entered the fray. A massive ship, far larger than anything they had encountered, emerged from faster-than-light travel near the outpost. Its design was unmistakably Progenitor, but far more advanced. The ship's arrival triggered a cascade of reactions throughout the outpost. Hidden systems awakened, new defenses springing to life. A transmission arrived, delivered in a hybrid language that combined elements of human, Barzan, and ancient Progenitor dialects. Attention, inhabitants of Outpost Nexus 9. This is the command ship Nexus, awakened to coordinate the galactic defense network against the Void Eater threat. Prepare for interface and strategic merger. The crew of the Celestial Harmony watched in stunned silence as the massive ship positioned itself between the outpost and the Void Eater Queen. Its presence offered a glimmer of hope, but also raised a host of new questions. As energy battles raged around them, Celine made a split-second decision. She reached out with her enhanced abilities, attempting to establish a direct connection with the Nexus. The fate of multiple worlds hung in the balance as she bridged the gap between ancient technology and desperate allies, knowing that the next few moments would determine the course of the war against the Void Eaters. The energy web created by the Nexus pulsed with otherworldly power, its tendrils stretching across space to envelop both the Barzan homeworld and the Progenitor outpost. As the massive energy beam connected with the network of smaller vessels, the effect was immediate and profound. At the Progenitor outpost, Celine felt the overwhelming pressure on her mind ease as the Nexus's energy web stabilized. The Void Eater Queen's psychic assault faltered, its massive form writhing in apparent agony. Celine seized the opportunity to disengage from the outpost systems, her body once again undergoing a rapid transformation. She stumbled forward, her skin shimmering with newfound bioluminescence. As she steadied herself, Celine realized she could sense the energy fields around her, manipulating them with mere thoughts. Dr. Ilara rushed to her side, scanner in hand. Celine, your genetic structure is still in flux. These readings are unprecedented. Before Celine could respond, the Void Eater Queen let out a deafening psychic shriek. Its colossal form began to lose cohesion, chunks of its energy matrix dissolving into space. Acting on instinct, Celine reached out with her mind, probing the creature's disintegrating consciousness. A flood of images and sensations overwhelmed her. Countless civilizations, entire galaxies consumed over eons flashed through her mind. There's so much knowledge, she gasped, struggling to process the information. The Nexus, its AI perceiving Celine's mental probe, initiated a data transfer. Streams of information flowed from the Void Eater Queen into the ship's vast databases, further weakening the cosmic entity. On the Barzan homeworld, Andrew watched in awe as the Void Eater swarm attacking the planet began to disintegrate. The energy-draining technique, now amplified by the Nexus's intervention, tore through the invaders' ranks. It's working, he exclaimed, his tactical display showing the rapid dispersion of the Void Eater forces. Captain Kravax nodded, his expression grim. Yes, but we're not out of danger yet. The traitors within our ranks are still active. Andrew's newfound perceptual abilities allowed him to spot irregularities in the Barzan defense grid. There, he pointed to a cluster of ships on the display. They're trying to disrupt the energy siphon. Kravax barked orders into his communicator, dispatching loyal forces to intercept the saboteurs. Andrew coordinated the counteroffensive, using his enhanced awareness to predict and thwart the traitors' moves. As the last of the Void Eaters dissolved into harmless energy dispersals, Andrew turned his full attention to rooting out the collaborators. He worked with Kravax and other trusted commanders to isolate and apprehend the suspected traitors, securing vital defense installations in a series of swift, precise operations. Back at the Progenitor outpost, Selene emerged from her mental link with the Void Eater Queen, her eyes glowing with an inner light. She stumbled, nearly falling, but Queen Zarathul caught her arm. "What did you see?" the Barzan Queen asked, her voice filled with concern and curiosity. Selene shook her head, trying to organize her thoughts. "It's vast. The Void Eaters, they've consumed so much. But there's something else, a purpose, buried deep in their original programming." Admiral Thorne stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the massive form of the Nexus. "And what of this ship? It seems we've traded one cosmic threat for another." As if in response, a transmission from the Nexus filled the Outpost Command Center. "Representatives of Outpost Nexus 9, prepare for interface. Your cooperation is required to formulate an effective response to the Void Eater threat." Queen Zarathul and Admiral Thorne exchanged glances. The Nexus represented power beyond their comprehension, but also a potential ally in the ongoing conflict. "We should proceed with caution," Thorne advised. "This entity possesses both Progenitor technology and the Void Eater Queen's knowledge. We don't know its true intentions." Zarathul nodded, her regal bearing masking her uncertainty. "Agreed. Selene, given your unique abilities, I believe you should take the lead in our interactions with the Nexus." Selene straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "I'll do my best, Your Majesty." As the crew of the Celestial Harmony prepared for the meeting with the Nexus representatives, Dr. Alara pored over the data from Selene's transformations. Her eyes widened as she analyzed the results. "This is remarkable," she muttered, calling Selene over to view the findings. "The genetic recombination process, combined with your exposure to intense energy fields, has unlocked potential we never imagined within the human-Barzan hybrid genome." Selene examined the data, her mind racing with the implications. Could this help us interface more effectively with Progenitor technology? Before Dr. Alara could respond, a commotion at the docking bay drew their attention. Andrew's ship had arrived from the Barzan homeworld, its hull bearing scorch marks from the recent battle. As Andrew disembarked, his eyes immediately sought out Selene. He froze, taking in her transformed appearance. Selene felt a mix of joy and apprehension as she moved to greet him, uncertain how he would react to her changes. Their reunion was cut short by an announcement from the Outpost's AI. "Attention all personnel. Nexus representatives are preparing to board. Please assemble in the main conference chamber." Selene took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. She grasped Andrew's hand, drawing strength from his presence. Together they made their way to the conference chamber, ready to face whatever challenges the Nexus might bring. As they entered the vast room, a shimmering portal materialized in the center. The air crackled with energy as the first Nexus representative stepped through, its form unlike anything they had ever encountered. Scene. The being stood nearly 8 feet tall, its form a constantly shifting mass of energy that pulsed with an otherworldly glow. As it moved forward, the air around it shimmered and crackled. "Greetings, representatives of Outpost Nexus 9, the entity spoke, its voice a harmonic blend of tones that seemed to resonate within their minds. "I am Emissary Zix, sent by the Nexus to facilitate our cooperation." Selene stepped forward, her newly transformed body resonating with the energy emanating from Zix. She felt a strange kinship with the being, as if their very essence spoke the same language. "Welcome, Emissary Zix," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "I am Selene, and I will be acting as the primary liaison for our group." Zix's form shimmered, tendrils of energy reaching out towards Selene before retracting. "Fascinating. You possess a unique energy signature, unlike any I have encountered. This will prove most beneficial for our mission. Admiral Thorne cleared his throat, drawing attention back to the matter at hand. Emissary, we have many questions about the Nexus and its intentions. Can you elaborate on your purpose here? Zix's form pulsed as it responded. The Nexus was created by the Progenitors as a safeguard against threats like the Void Eaters. We have been dormant for millennia, awakening only when the threat reached a critical level. The knowledge extracted from the Void Eater Queen has provided us with crucial information. The energy being projected a holographic map of the galaxy, dotted with pulsing points of light. These are the locations of dormant Progenitor outposts. If reactivated, they will form a network capable of detecting and neutralizing Void Eater incursions on a massive scale. Excited murmurs filled the room, but Queen Zarathul raised a hand for silence. And what is required to activate these outposts? Six turned its attention to Selene. The outposts require individuals with specific genetic markers to interface with and activate them. A combination of human and Barzan DNA, precisely calibrated to interact with Progenitor technology. Selene appears to be the ideal candidate for this task. All eyes in the room turned to Selene, who felt the weight of expectation settle on her shoulders. Before she could respond, the doors to the conference chamber slid open, and Andrew burst in, his face etched with concern and relief. "Selene," he called out, rushing towards her. He stopped short, taking in her altered appearance with wide eyes. You're... Selene reached out, taking his hand in hers. "It's still me, Andrew. Just evolved." Their reunion was cut short as Dr. Alara stepped forward, her tablet displaying a complex array of genetic data. "I've been analyzing Selene's transformation, and the results are astounding. The exposure to intense energy fields during the battle has triggered a rapid evolution in her hybrid physiology. This could potentially be replicated in other human Barzan hybrids." The implications of Dr. Alara's statement sent a ripple of tension through the room. Admiral Thorne's brow furrowed as he considered the potential consequences. "Are you suggesting we create more individuals like Selene? The ethical implications alone." Queen Zarathul interjected, her voice calm but firm. "We must consider all options in the face of this threat. However, we cannot make such a decision lightly." As the debate began to heat up, Emissary Zix's form pulsed urgently. "I must interrupt. The Nexus has detected multiple Void Eater swarms converging on key human and Barzan colonies. The attacks appear coordinated, suggesting an adaptation in their strategies." The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. Admiral Thorne was the first to speak. "We need to act now. Queen Zarathul, I propose we authorize a joint human Barzan expedition to activate these dormant outposts. We can't afford to wait." The Barzan Queen nodded solemnly. "Agreed. Selene, Andrew, you will lead this mission. Emissary Zix, will the Nexus provide support?" "Of course," the energy being replied. "I will accompany the team to provide guidance on Progenitor systems." As the meeting adjourned and preparations for the expedition began, Selene and Andrew found a moment alone. Andrew reached out, his fingers tracing the bioluminescent patterns on Selene's skin. "I was so worried," he said softly. "When I heard about the battle, I feared the worst." Selene leaned into his touch, feeling the familiar comfort of his presence. "I'm okay, Andrew. Different, but okay. And now we have a chance to make a real difference in this war." Their moment of peace was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Lyra Vex, a tall Barzan woman with a stern expression. "Lieutenant Andrew, Specialist Selene, I've been assigned as head of security for this mission. We need to discuss protocols immediately." As Lyra began outlining her strict security measures, Selene and Andrew exchanged a glance. They could already sense the potential for conflict with the by-the-book commander. In the medical bay, Dr. Alara worked feverishly, her eyes darting between multiple screens of data. She had made a breakthrough in her genetic research, developing a treatment that could potentially enhance other human Barzan hybrids. But the risks were significant, and she knew the decision to use it would not be an easy one. As the Celestial Harmony prepared for departure, the crew bustled with activity. Human and Barzan scientists worked side by side, their differences set aside in the face of the greater threat. Engineers made last-minute modifications to accommodate the energy signature of Emissary 6, while security personnel ran drills under Commander Vex's watchful eye. Celine stood on the bridge, her hand intertwined with Andrew's as they watched the stars through the viewscreen. The weight of their mission pressed down on them, but in that moment, they drew strength from each other. "Ready, Andrew asked, and giving her hand a gentle squeeze. Celine nodded, her eyes glowing with perseverance. "Ready, whatever comes next, we face it together." As the celestial harmony disengaged from the Progenitor outpost, its engines flared to life. The ship turned towards the coordinates of the first dormant outpost, carrying with it the hopes of two species and the future of the cosmos. The crew, a diverse mix of humans, Barzans, and hybrids, settled in for the journey ahead, each aware of the monumental task before them. With a burst of energy, the celestial harmony entered faster than light travel, streaking across the stars towards an uncertain future. The race against the advancing Void Eater threat had begun, and the clock was ticking. Ticking. As the celestial harmony streaked through space, the crew settled into their roles, each acutely aware of the weight of their mission. Celine stood at the helm, her newly enhanced senses attuned to the ship's systems in ways she never thought possible. She felt the subtle vibrations of the engines, the minute fluctuations in the energy field surrounding them. Andrew remained by her side, his presence a comforting anchor in the sea of change she found herself navigating. Their journey had barely begun when the ship's long-range sensors lit up with an unexpected alert. Lieutenant Kira Novak, the human sensor officer, furrowed her brow as she analyzed the incoming data. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," she reported, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "It's coming from a nearby star system, bearing 047 Mark 213. Admiral Thorne leaned forward in his command chair, his expression grave. "Can you identify the source?" Kira worked her console for a moment before responding. "Sir, it appears to be a Barzan scout ship. The signal is weak and intermittent." A tense silence fell over the bridge. Andrew and Celine exchanged glances, both recognizing the potential diplomatic ramifications of their next decision. "Admiral," Andrew spoke up, his diplomatic training coming to the fore, "ignoring a Barzan vessel in distress could have serious consequences for our alliance. I recommend we investigate." Celine nodded in agreement. "Our mission is crucial, but so is the trust between our peoples. We can't turn our backs on them." Admiral Thorne considered their words for a moment before nodding. "Agreed. Helm, set course for the distress signal. Maximum safe speed." As the celestial harmony altered course, the crew sprang into action. Dr. Alara prepared the medical bay for potential casualties, while Chief Engineer Marcus Mitchell ran diagnostics on the ship's newly integrated progenitor systems. The damaged Barzan vessel came into view on the main view screen, its sleek hull marred by scorch marks and debris. Gaping breaches exposed its interior to the vacuum of space, and the flickering of its failing life support systems was visible even from a distance. "Life signs?" Admiral Thorne asked, his voice taut with concern. Kira's fingers flew over her console. "Faint but present. I'm detecting 5 Barzan life signs, sir. They're in critical condition." Andrew leaned in, studying the ship's markings. His eyes widened in recognition. "That's not just any Barzan vessel. Those are royal insignias. We could be looking at members of the royal family." The revelation sent a ripple of tension through the bridge. Celine felt a surge of anxiety, knowing that the stakes had just risen exponentially. "We need to act fast," she said, turning to Marcus. "Chief, can we use the Progenitor tech to assist with the rescue?" Marcus scratched his beard, his mind racing through possibilities. "Maybe. The energy manipulation capabilities of the Progenitor systems might allow us to create a sort of tether. It could stabilize their ship long enough for us to get them out." "Do it," Admiral Thorne ordered. "Celine, your enhanced abilities might be crucial here. Work with Marcus to establish that tether." Celine nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension as she followed Marcus to engineering. As they worked to interface the Progenitor systems with the ship's existing technology, Celine found her heightened awareness allowing her to intuitively grasp concepts that would have been beyond her comprehension mere days ago. Within minutes, a shimmering tendril of energy extended from the celestial harmony, enveloping the stricken Barzan vessel in a protective cocoon. Celine stood at the heart of the engineering bay, her body glowing faintly as she acted as a living conduit for the energy flow. "Maintaining stability," she reported, her voice strained with effort. "But we need to move quickly. I'm not sure how long I can hold this." Andrew's voice came over the comm system. "We're sending over the rescue team now. Hold on, Celine." As the rescue operation unfolded, the crew worked with precision and urgency. The Barzan royals were carefully extracted from their failing ship and brought aboard the Celestial Harmony. Dr. Ilara and her medical team sprang into action, providing immediate care to the injured passengers. Among the rescued Barzans was a young woman whose regal bearing marked her as someone of particular importance. As she was helped onto the bridge, her eyes widened at the sight of the diverse crew. "I am Princess Lyra," she announced, her voice weak but filled with dignity. "Daughter of Queen Zarathol, I thank you for your timely rescue." Andrew stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Princess Lyra, I am Ambassador Andrew Shaw. On behalf of the Human Barzan Alliance, we welcome you aboard the Celestial Harmony." As Andrew began to explain their mission to the princess, Celine entered the bridge, still glowing faintly from her exertions. Princess Lyra's gaze fixed on her, a mix of curiosity and awe in her expression. "What manner of being are you?" she asked, taking a step towards Celine. Celine met the princess's gaze, feeling a strange kinship with the young royal. "I am Celine, Your Highness, a human Barzan hybrid, recently evolved." Princess Lyra's eyes sparkled with interest. "Fascinating. I've heard whispers of such hybrids, but never imagined this ship, this crew, it's all so unexpected." As the princess continued to pepper them with questions, Andrew found himself drawn into a detailed explanation of their mission and the alliance between humans and Barzans. Celine noticed the way Princess Lyra's eyes lingered on Andrew, a flicker of something more than diplomatic interest in her gaze. With the rescue complete and the Barzan royals safely aboard, Admiral Thorne ordered the ship to resume its course towards the coordinates provided by the nexus. As they prepared to jump back into faster-than-light travel, Celine couldn't shake the feeling that their mission had just become far more complicated. The Celestial Harmony surged forward, carrying its expanded crew towards their rendezvous with the dormant Progenitor outpost. But as they traveled, new dynamics began to form among the passengers, and the once clear path ahead seemed to twist with unforeseen challenges and possibilities. As they neared their destination, the tension aboard the Celestial Harmony grew palpable. The ship's sensors detected the massive structure of the Progenitor Nexus hub looming ahead, surrounded by a dense asteroid field. Admiral Thorne called Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra to the command center, where holographic displays illuminated the intricate patterns of the celestial obstacles before them. "This is it," Andrew said, his eyes fixed on the central display. "Everything we've been working towards." Celine nodded, her skin pulsing with a soft, bioluminescent glow. "I can feel the energy from here. It's incredible." Princess Lyra, still adapting to the ship's advanced technology, studied the readouts with intense curiosity. "How do we proceed?" Andrew took a deep breath. "We need to initiate contact with the dormant defense system. Celine, can you project an energy signature that mimics the Progenitor protocols Emissary Zix provided?" Celine closed her eyes, focusing her enhanced abilities. A faint aura surrounded her as she channeled the complex energy patterns. "I'm trying. It's like speaking a language I've never learned, but somehow understand." As Celine worked, Andrew coordinated the ship's movements, carefully navigating through the treacherous asteroid field. His fingers danced across the holographic controls, making minute adjustments to their course. Princess Lyra, drawing on her knowledge of Barzan royal protocols, stepped forward. "The energy pulses from the hub. They have a rhythm. It reminds me of our ancient communication methods." She began to modulate the ship's communication signals, matching the cadence of the hub's pulsations. The combined efforts of the trio yielded unexpected results. The asteroid field began to shift, creating a clear path toward the central structure of the Nexus hub. As the celestial harmony approached, the crystalline surface of the hub activated, emitting a brilliant blue light that enveloped the ship. "Status report," Admiral Thorne barked, gripping the arms of his command chair. Before anyone could respond, a powerful tractor beam emanated from the hub, pulling the celestial harmony towards a previously hidden docking port. Panic rippled through the crew as alarms blared. "Sir, we're losing control," Lieutenant Novak shouted from her station. Andrew's mind raced, analyzing the situation. He made a split-second decision. "Admiral, I recommend we allow the ship to be drawn in. This could be a sign of acceptance from the Progenitor systems." Admiral Thorne hesitated for a moment before nodding grimly. "Make it so. All hands prepare for docking procedures." As the celestial harmony was pulled into the massive structure, the crew watched in awe as they entered a vast, cavernous space filled with dormant machinery and holographic interfaces. The moment Celine stepped onto the hub's deck, the ancient systems hummed to life, responding to her hybrid physiology. Emissary Zix's energy form pulsed with excitement. "Fascinating. The hub's central computer is accepting my integration protocols. I'm beginning to access the Nexus database." As information flooded the ship's systems, the true extent of the Progenitor defense network was revealed. Thousands of similar hubs scattered throughout the galaxy, each controlling hundreds of outposts and millions of defense drones. "This is beyond anything we imagined," Andrew breathed, his eyes wide as he took in the holographic star map displaying the network. As the crew marveled at the discovery, Celine felt a strange pull. "There's something else here. I can sense it." Following her instincts, Celine led Andrew and Princess Lyra deeper into the hub. They found themselves in a chamber lined with rows of stasis pods. Most were empty or damaged, but 3 remained active, their surfaces frosted over. "What do you think is inside?" Princess Lyra asked, her voice hushed with reverence. Andrew approached the first pod, studying its control panel. "Only one way to find out. Celine, can you interface with this?" Celine placed her hand on the pod's surface. The frost dissipated, revealing a transparent window. Inside, they saw a humanoid figure that bore a striking resemblance to both humans and Barzans. "By the stars," Princess Lyra gasped. "Could it be—" "A common ancestor," Andrew finished, his legs shaking from the implications. "This changes everything we thought we knew about our origins." Celine activated her comlink. "Dr. Alara, we need you in the stasis chamber immediately. We're about to wake up a Progenitor." As the medical team rushed to prepare for the revival process, Andrew couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. They stood on the precipice of unlocking the secrets of the Progenitors and potentially saving the galaxy from the Void Eater threat. But as he glanced at Celine, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the stasis pod, he wondered at what cost this knowledge would come. The first pod hissed open, releasing a cloud of cryogenic vapor. The ancient being inside stirred, opening eyes that held the wisdom of eons. As it took its first breath in millennia, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra exchanged glances, knowing that the fate of their civilizations now hung in the balance. Balance. The ancient being's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence. As it took its first breath in millennia, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra exchanged glances, knowing that the fate of their civilizations now hung in the balance. Before anyone could speak, the ship's alarms blared to life. Admiral Thorne's voice crackled over the intercom, urgency evident in his tone. "All hands to battle stations. Void Eater swarms detected on long-range sensors." The news sent a jolt of adrenaline through the group. Dr. Alara, who had just arrived at the stasis chamber, quickly assessed the situation. "We need to move fast. The revival process for the other pods will have to wait." Andrew nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "Agreed. We need to focus on activating the Progenitor defense network before those swarms reach us." As they helped the awakened Progenitor to its feet, Celine felt a surge of energy coursing through her body. The being's proximity seemed to amplify her hybrid abilities, causing her skin to pulse with a soft, bioluminescent glow. "I'm Xylos," the Progenitor said, its voice a melodic blend of tones that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies. Your arrival was foreseen, though the circumstances are unexpected. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her regal bearing evident even in the face of imminent danger. Honored Xylos, we seek your help to activate the defense network and save our worlds from the Void Eaters. Xylos nodded solemnly. The task ahead is monumental, but not impossible. We must make haste to the hub's central control chamber. As they moved through the cavernous halls of the Nexus hub, Dr. Alara pulled Andrew aside. Ambassador, I have a proposal. The genetic treatment we developed for Selene, I believe we could adapt it for Princess Lyra. A second hybrid could significantly increase our chances of successfully interfacing with the progenitor systems. Andrew's eyes widened at the implications. That's a big ask, Doctor. The risks are considerable, Dr. Alara finished, but so are the stakes. They approached Princess Lyra with the proposal. Despite the potential dangers, she agreed without hesitation. If it will help save my people and yours, I'll do it. As Dr. Alara prepared a makeshift medical bay within the hub, utilizing a combination of progenitor equipment and her own expertise, Andrew and Selene accompanied Xylos to the central control chamber. The chamber was a marvel of ancient technology, with holographic displays flickering to life as they entered. Xylos moved with purpose, its fingers dancing across control panels that had lain dormant for eons. We must calibrate the systems to recognize Selene's unique genetic signature, Xylos explained. This will create a template for Princess Lyra to assist once her transformation is complete. As they worked, the hub's external sensors detected the approaching Void Eater swarms. The dormant asteroid drones surrounding the structure sprang to life, forming a protective barrier. The crew of the Celestial Harmony watched in awe as the ancient technology demonstrated its power, obliterating the first wave of Void Eaters that attempted to breach the perimeter. Hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Just as Selene and Xylos finished the calibrations, Princess Lyra emerged from the medical bay. Her appearance had subtly changed, now bearing characteristics of both Barzan and human physiology. Her eyes in particular seemed to glow with an inner light that mirrored Selene's. I'm ready, Princess Lyra declared, her voice steady despite the visible strain of her recent transformation. Selene took her place at the central interface, with Princess Lyra beside her. Andrew stood back, his heart racing as he watched the two women prepare to attempt something never before achieved in the history of their species. Initiating activation sequence, Selene announced, her voice taking on an otherworldly timbre as she channeled her energy into the hub's central core. Princess Lyra, guided by her newly acquired hybrid instincts, synchronized her efforts with Selene's. The combined power of the two hybrids resonated with the progenitor technology, sending a cascading wave of energy through the network of hubs and outposts. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. Holographic displays throughout the chamber lit up, showing the defense network coming online across the galaxy. Dormant progenitor outposts sprang to life, their defenses engaging Void Eater swarms in numerous star systems. Reports flooded in from both human and Barzan territories of mysterious energy shields appearing around vulnerable planets, repelling Void Eater attacks. The tide of the cosmic invasion seemed to be turning. But the process took a heavy toll on Selene and Princess Lyra. Andrew watched in growing concern as both women began to visibly struggle under the strain of maintaining the connection with the hub systems. Selene's knees buckled and she collapsed to the floor, her energy depleted. Princess Lyra, her face contorted with effort, took on a larger share of the burden. As she channeled more energy into the network, her body began to exhibit unexpected changes. Her skin took on a luminescent quality, and her eyes blazed with an inner fire that both awed and terrified Andrew. Just as it seemed they might succeed, alarms blared throughout the hub. The Void Eater swarms, initially repelled by the hub's defenses, had regrouped and launched a coordinated attack. The sheer number of attackers threatened to overwhelm the protective barrier of asteroid drones. Andrew, recognizing the danger, activated his comlink. Admiral Thorne, we need the Celestial Harmony to join the defensive efforts. Use the ship's progenitor weapon systems. As the battle intensified outside, Xylos approached Andrew with a grave expression. There is one more option. The hub contains a weapon capable of destabilizing Void Eater swarms, but its use requires a direct neural link with a genetically compatible individual. The process is potentially fatal. Andrew's mind raced, weighing the options. The fate of entire civilizations hung in the balance. With a deep breath, he stepped forward. I'll do it. Celine, having regained consciousness, grabbed his arm. Andrew, no! Your human physiology might not survive the link. Before Andrew could respond, Princess Lyra's voice rang out, clear and strong despite her exhaustion. There's another way. I can use my connection to the Progenitor network to create a three-way link between us. We can share the burden, distribute the risk. As the Void Eaters pressed their attack outside, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra took their positions around the hub's central core. Xylos initiated the neural link, and suddenly their minds merged within the Progenitor systems. The experience was unlike anything they had ever known. Barriers of thought and emotion crumbled as their consciousness intertwined. In that moment, they were one entity, unified in purpose and understanding. Through their shared perception, they activated the hub's ultimate weapon. A massive energy pulse erupted from the structure, tearing through the Void Eater swarms. The cosmic predator's energy matrices destabilized, causing them to disintegrate into harmless particles. As the immediate threat subsided, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra disengaged from the hub systems. They found themselves forever changed by the experience. Their perceptions altered, and their connections to each other fundamentally transformed. The victory was clear, but as they looked at each other with new eyes, they realized that the challenges ahead were a long way to go. The personal costs and changes they had experienced set the stage for further complications in their mission to secure the galaxy against the cosmic threat. As reports of the Progenitor network's effectiveness flooded in from across the galaxy, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra stood in silence, each grappling with the implications of their shared consciousness experience. The boundaries between them had blurred, creating new challenges for their personal relationships and their roles within the mission. The immediate danger had passed, but as they gazed out at the star-filled expanse visible through the hub's observation deck, they knew that their journey was far from finished. The activation of the Progenitor defense network was just the beginning of a new chapter in the fight for galactic survival. The activation of the Progenitor defense network had come at a great personal cost, leaving Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra physically and mentally drained. As the immediate threat subsided, the trio found themselves being ushered to the Celestial Harmonies Infirmary for thorough medical examinations. Dr. Alara's face was a mask of concentration as she ran a series of advanced diagnostic scans on each of them. The soft hum of medical equipment filled the room, punctuated by occasional beeps and the doctor's thoughtful murmurs. Fascinating, Dr. Alara said, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of Andrew's genetic structure. Ambassador, your DNA shows signs of subtle alterations. It appears the neural link has granted you limited abilities to interface with Progenitor technology. Andrew flexed his fingers, a tingling sensation coursing through them. I can feel it. It's like a low-level hum just beneath my skin. Turning to Celine, Dr. Alara's eyebrows rose in surprise. Your hybrid physiology has further stabilized. The energy manipulation abilities you've demonstrated before, they've been significantly enhanced. Celine closed her eyes, feeling the familiar surge of power within her, but now it felt more controlled, more focused. She opened her palm, and a small orb of pulsating energy formed above it, its light casting dancing shadows across the infirmary walls. Princess Lyra sat on the edge of the examination table, her transformed appearance drawing curious glances from the medical staff. Dr. Ilara's scan of the Barzan Royal revealed the most dramatic changes. Your Highness, your transformation has progressed beyond our initial expectations. Your body now exhibits a perfect balance between human and Barzan characteristics. The potential implications are, well, they're extraordinary. As the three recovered from their examinations, the celestial harmony buzzed with activity. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, confirming the effectiveness of the activated Progenitor defenses. Holographic displays throughout the ship showed Void Eater swarms being repelled from multiple star systems, their once unstoppable advance now faltering in the face of ancient technology. Admiral Thorne's voice crackled over the ship's communication system. "Ambassador, we're receiving messages from both Earth and the Barzan homeworld. The defensive network is holding, but there's unrest. Political factions are debating the implications of our alliance and the power we've unlocked." Before Andrew could respond, Marcus Mitchell, the ship's chief engineer, burst into the infirmary, his eyes wide with excitement. "You need to see this," he said, gesturing for them to follow. The group made their way to the bridge, where a massive holographic display dominated the center of the room. It showed a complex web of energy signatures stretching across the galaxy. "We've been analyzing the residual energy from the retreating Void Eater swarms," Marcus explained, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "There's a pattern here, something we've never seen before. It suggests the existence of a central hive or control point." Andrew leaned in, studying the intricate network of energy trails. "If we could track these back to their source, we might be able to strike at the heart of the Void Eater threat," Celine finished, her eyes meeting Andrew's. As the crew began formulating plans to pursue this new lead, Xylos entered the bridge. The Progenitor's presence still commanded a mix of awe and unease among the human and Barzan crew members. "I've made progress in decoding more of the hub's database," Xylos announced, its melodic voice carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "There's information about other Progenitor facilities scattered throughout the galaxy. Research centers, weapons complexes, resources that could prove invaluable in our struggle." The news sent a ripple of excitement through the bridge crew, but it was tempered by the weight of responsibility. The power they now wielded was immense, and the consequences of its use could reshape the galaxy. As discussions intensified, a communication alert chimed. Queen Zarathol's holographic image appeared before them, her regal bearing unchanged despite the strain evident in her eyes. "Ambassador, we require your immediate return to the Barzan homeworld," the Queen declared. "The situation here is complex. We need a full briefing on recent events, and we must discuss the future of our alliance in light of these Progenitor revelations." Andrew nodded, feeling the weight of diplomatic responsibility settling on his shoulders once more. "Understood, Your Majesty. We'll set course immediately." As the celestial harmony prepared for its journey to Barzan space, Andrew found himself drawn to the observation deck. He stood before the vast window, watching as distant stars streaked by. The events of the past few days played through his mind, each moment tinged with the lingering echoes of the shared neural link. He sensed rather than heard Celine and Princess Lyra approach. The three stood in silence, their proximity stirring memories of their shared consciousness. The boundaries between them had blurred, creating a connection that defied easy categorization. Celine's hand found Andrew's, their fingers intertwining. Princess Lyra stepped closer, her shoulder brushing against Andrew's. The contact sent a shiver of energy through all three of them, a reminder of the profound changes they had undergone. As the celestial harmony surged towards Barzan space, the trio remained on the observation deck, their reflections ghostly in the transparent aluminum window. The stars beyond seemed to pulse in rhythm with their shared heartbeat, a silent testament to the challenges that lay ahead in the uncharted territories, both cosmic and personal, they had yet to explore. The stars streaked by as the celestial harmony surged towards Barzan space. Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra stood silently on the observation deck, their reflections ghostly in the transparent aluminum window. The weight of their shared experience hung heavily between them, a constant reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. As they approached the Barzan homeworld, alarms blared throughout the ship. Admiral Thorne's voice crackled over the intercom. Multiple Void Eater signatures detected on long-range scanners. They're converging on Barzan Prime. The trio exchanged glances, their enhanced connection allowing them to communicate without words. They rushed to the bridge where chaos reigned as crew members scrambled to battle stations. We need to coordinate the planet's defenses, Andrew said, his mind already racing through potential strategies. Celine, contact Queen Zarathul. We'll need full access to their military systems. Celine nodded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Within moments, the Queen's image materialized before them, her face etched with concern. Ambassador, we've detected the incoming threat, Queen Zarathul said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. What do you propose? Your Majesty, Princess Lyra stepped forward, her luminescent skin pulsing with energy. We need to establish a command center in the capital. We can integrate Progenitor technology with your existing defenses to create a unified defense network. The Queen's eyes widened at the sight of her transformed daughter, but quickly regained her composure. Granted, I'll have our military commanders prepare for your arrival. As the celestial harmony entered Barzan atmosphere, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra boarded a shuttle bound for the capital city. The streets below were a flurry of activity as civilians rushed to shelters and military personnel mobilized their forces. The command center, a towering spire in the heart of the city, buzzed with activity as the trio arrived. Barzan officers snapped to attention, their eyes filled with a mix of awe and uncertainty as they regarded the hybrid princess and her human companions. We don't have much time, Andrew announced, striding towards the central holographic display. We need to interface our Progenitor-enhanced abilities with your systems. It's our best chance at coordinating an effective defense. As Celine and Princess Lyra began connecting with the Barzan technology, Andrew felt a familiar tingling sensation coursing through his body. He placed his hands on the control panel, and suddenly his consciousness expanded. The entire planetary defense grid appeared in his mind's eye, a vast network of interconnected systems and weaponry. It's working, he breathed, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. I can see everything. Celine's voice echoed in his mind, a byproduct of their shared neural link. The Void Eaters are approaching from multiple vectors. We need to coordinate our defenses. Through their combined efforts, they began to organize the planet's defenses. Andrew directed the deployment of Barzan fighter squadrons, his enhanced perception allowing him to anticipate the Void Eaters' movements with uncanny accuracy. Celine took charge of the energy weapons salvaged from Progenitor outposts, her hybrid physiology granting her unprecedented control over the ancient technology. Beams of searing light lanced out from planetary defense platforms, tearing through the first wave of Void Eaters. Princess Lyra focused on the ground-based defenses, channeling her newly developed abilities into the shield generators. A shimmering barrier of energy enveloped key population centers and military installations, just as the first Void Eaters entered the atmosphere. The sky above Barzan Prime erupted into chaos as the battle began in earnest. Swarms of Void Eaters descended upon the planet, their dark forms blotting out the sun. Barzan fighters engaged the cosmic predators in furious dogfights, while ground-based weapons fired ceaselessly into the swirling melee above. In orbit, the celestial harmony joined the fray, its Progenitor-enhanced weapons blazing. Admiral Thorne's voice crackled over the command center speakers. We've got a situation up here. A massive Void Eater just dropped out of hyperspace. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Andrew's enhanced vision zoomed in on the new threat. The creature dwarfed its brethren, its form pulsing with malevolent energy. We're designating it Alpha Eater, he announced, his voice tense. All ships, focus your fire on that monstrosity. As the battle raged on, the Alpha Eater displayed an unprecedented level of intelligence. It systematically targeted Progenitor defense installations across the planet, its attacks precise and devastating. We need to take that thing out, Celine said, her eyes meeting Andrew's. If it continues like this, it'll tear through our defenses in no time. Princess Lyra nodded, her face set with grit. We have to confront it directly. It's the only way. The trio rushed to a nearby hangar where a modified shuttle waited. Its sleek form hummed with Progenitor energy, ready to interface with their hybrid physiologies. As they boarded, Andrew felt the vessel come alive around him, its systems merging with his enhanced awareness. They launched into the chaotic skies above Barzan Prime, weaving through the ongoing battle towards the looming form of the Alpha Eater. As they approached, the massive creature turned its attention towards them, sensing the progenitor energy emanating from their craft. The Alpha Eater unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one capable of vaporizing a standard ship. But the trio's combined abilities allowed them to anticipate and evade each attack with preternatural skill. Their shuttle danced through the onslaught, retaliating with bursts of progenitor energy that scorched the Alpha Eater's hide. As the high-stakes space battle intensified, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra found their connection deepening even further. Their movements became perfectly synchronized, their thoughts and actions flowing as one. The shuttle responded to their collective will, executing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Suddenly, Dr. Alara's voice cut through their shared consciousness. "Ambassador, I've made a breakthrough. The Void Eaters have a weakness in their energy matrix. If you can target it precisely, you might be able to disrupt the entire swarm." Andrew's mind raced, formulating a plan. "We need to get closer," he said aloud, his hands gripping the controls tightly. "If we can channel our combined energy through the shuttle's progenitor systems, we might have a chance." Celine and Princess Lyra nodded in unison, their bodies glowing with building power. As Andrew piloted the shuttle towards the Alpha Eater's vulnerable point, they poured their energy into the vessel's systems. The shuttle began to vibrate, the air inside crackling with potential. As they closed in on their target, Andrew's voice rang out, "Now!" A blinding pulse of energy erupted from their craft, striking the Alpha Eater's weak point with pinpoint accuracy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a chain reaction rippled through the massive creature's form. It writhed in space, its energy matrix collapsing in on itself. The Alpha Eater's destruction sent shockwaves through the remaining Void Eater swarms. Without their central coordinator, the cosmic predators became disorganized and erratic. The combined human-Barzan forces seized the opportunity, launching a devastating counterattack that decimated the invading force. As the last of the Void Eaters retreated or were destroyed, a cheer erupted from the planet below. Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra guided their shuttle back to the capital, their bodies drained but their spirits soaring. They landed to a hero's welcome, with Queen Zarathul herself waiting to greet them. As they disembarked, the Queen's eyes lingered on her transformed daughter, a mix of pride and wonder in her gaze. "You have saved our world," Queen Zarathul declared, her voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "And in doing so, you have proven the strength of our alliance. We stand stronger together than we ever could apart." As the celebration began around them, Andrew felt a familiar tingle at the base of his skull. He turned to see Selene and Princess Lyra experiencing the same sensation. A message was coming through their shared neural link, an urgent transmission from a distant human colony. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. The battle for Barzan Prime was won, but their mission was just getting started. Somewhere in the vastness of space, a dormant progenitor facility held secrets that could change everything. With renewed purpose, they prepared to embark on their next adventure, knowing that the fate of both their species hung in the balance. Balance. As the message faded, Andrew turned to his companions, his expression grave. "We need to inform Admiral Thorne," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This could change everything." Within hours, the celestial harmony was speeding through hyperspace, leaving the celebrations on Barzan Prime behind. The ship's corridors hummed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension as the crew prepared for their next mission. Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra found themselves drawn to the ship's advanced training simulator. The room's adaptive holographic technology surrounded them, creating lifelike scenarios that pushed their newfound abilities to the limit. As they practiced, their movements became increasingly synchronized. Andrew's tactical mind merged seamlessly with Celine's instinctive grasp of progenitor technology and Lyra's natural affinity for energy manipulation. The simulator's difficulty increased, presenting them with ever more complex challenges. "Watch your left flank," Andrew called out, his hand gesturing towards a holographic Void Eater materializing behind Celine. Without hesitation, Celine spun, her body glowing with crackling energy. A burst of power erupted from her palm, obliterating the simulated threat. Lyra, sensing an opening, leaped over her companions, her luminescent skin pulsing as she unleashed a wave of energy that cleared the area around them. As the simulation ended, they stood together, breathing heavily. The air between them seemed to crackle with an unspoken intensity. Their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement of the deepening connection they shared. Later, in the privacy of their quarters, that connection found physical expression. Touches lingered, glances held meaning beyond words, and the boundaries between them blurred further. Their intimate moments became a refuge from the weight of their responsibilities, a place where they could simply be. Days passed as the celestial harmony neared its destination. The distant human colony came into view, a cluster of gleaming structures nestled in a valley surrounded by towering mountain ranges. As they descended, Andrew's enhanced vision picked out details of the colony's layout, including a series of unusual energy readings emanating from the nearby peaks. "There," he said, pointing to a distant outcropping. "That's where we'll find the Progenitor facility." Their shuttle touched down on a landing pad at the colony's edge. A small team of researchers and security personnel greeted them, their faces a mixture of awe and curiosity at the sight of the transformed trio. "Ambassador," the lead scientist said, stepping forward, "we've been monitoring the energy fluctuations from the mountain facility. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." Andrew nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "We'll need to move quickly. Prepare an expedition team and gather any equipment you think might be useful." As the colony bustled with activity, Andrew, Celine, and Lyra conferred quietly. Their shared neural link allowed for rapid, silent communication, their thoughts intertwining as they considered their approach. The journey to the facility was arduous, even with their enhanced abilities. Sheer cliff faces and narrow mountain paths tested their determination. As they neared the summit, a sense of anticipation built within them. Suddenly, the rock face before them shimmered, revealing a massive door etched with intricate glowing symbols. As they approached, the facility's security systems hummed to life. Beams of light swept over their bodies, analyzing their genetic makeup. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep, resonant tone, the doors began to slide open. Andrew exchanged glances with Celine and Lyra, their expressions mirroring his own mix of excitement and trepidation. "Well," he said, a hint of a smile playing at his lips, "shall we?" They stepped into the facility, the air around them tingling with ancient power. Corridors stretched out before them, lined with pulsing conduits and strange, shifting geometric patterns. Every surface seemed alive with barely held back energy. As they ventured deeper, they encountered rooms filled with technology beyond their comprehension. Holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, showing star maps and complex equations that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Their path led them to a vast chamber at the heart of the facility. At its center stood a towering structure that could only be the data core. Its surface rippled with cascading light, creating patterns that seemed to hold meaning just beyond their grasp. Andrew approached the core, feeling an inexplicable pull. As he placed his hand on its surface, his consciousness expanded. Information flooded his mind. Glimpses of the Void Eater's creation, flashes of ancient battles, and fragments of a plan long forgotten. "I'm initiating the download," he said, his voice distant as he focused on controlling the flow of data. Suddenly, the facility's lights flared. Alarms blared, and the ground beneath them shook. Andrew found himself cut off from Celine and Lyra as security barriers slammed into place. "Andrew," Celine's voice echoed through their neural link. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," he replied, his mind still connected to the data core. "But I can't stop the download now. You two need to find another way to reach me." As Celine and Lyra navigated the labyrinthine corridors, Andrew grappled with the facility's ancient systems. The data transfer continued, but he sensed a growing resistance, as if the facility itself was fighting against him. A holographic figure materialized before him, a representation of the facility's AI. Its form shifted constantly, never settling on a single appearance. "Intruder," it said, its voice a cacophony of tones. "You are not authorized to access this data." Andrew straightened, drawing on all his diplomatic experience. "We are not intruders," he said firmly. "We are the inheritors of the Progenitor's legacy. The threat they created, the Void Eaters, has returned. We need this information to stop them." The AI's form flickered, its expression unreadable. "Prove your claim," it demanded. As Andrew engaged in a battle of wits with the AI, Celine and Lyra made their way through the facility's defenses. Their enhanced senses allowed them to anticipate and avoid security measures, while their combined abilities made short work of the obstacles they couldn't circumvent. In a moment of respite, hidden in an alcove as a patrol of security drones passed by, they found themselves drawn together. The adrenaline of their situation, combined with the intensity of their shared experiences, led to a passionate embrace. Their kisses were fervent, hands exploring with an urgency born of both desire and the knowledge that every second counted. As they separated, breathless, Lyra's skin pulsed with a soft glow. "We should keep moving," she said, her voice husky. Celine nodded, her eyes still locked with Lyra's. "Let's go get our ambassador back." They pressed on, their connection stronger than ever, driven by a shared purpose in the growing bond between them. Back in the central chamber, Andrew's negotiations with the AI reached a critical point. He opened his mind fully, allowing the AI to see the truth of their situation, the battles they'd fought, the transformations they'd undergone, and the looming threat of the Void Eaters. The AI's form stabilized, taking on a more distinct shape. "I understand," it said, its voice now a single, solemn tone. "The fail-safe has indeed failed. You may access the data you seek." As the last of the information transferred, Celine and Lyra burst into the chamber. The three reunited, their relief palpable. Together they began to sift through the vast amount of data they'd acquired. The truth they uncovered was staggering. The Void Eaters, originally created as a safeguard against the misuse of Progenitor technology, had evolved far beyond their intended purpose. A programming error had turned them from protectors into an uncontrollable threat. "There's more," Andrew said, his eyes unfocused as he processed the information. "There's a master control hub hidden somewhere in the galaxy. If we can find it, we might be able to deactivate the Void Eaters, or even reprogram them." Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from the colony. A Void Eater scout ship had been detected approaching the planet. "We need to move," Celine said, her expression grim. "If that scout reports back about this facility..." They rushed back to the colony's command center, their minds racing with plans. As they coordinated the defense, using their abilities in concert with the colony's limited resources, Andrew couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The scout ship was repelled, but the implications of its presence burdened immensely on them all. As they returned to the celestial harmony with their newly acquired data, the trio knew that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. The ship's analysis systems worked tirelessly to process the information from the Progenitor facility. As patterns began to emerge, so too did troubling questions. Evidence suggested that certain factions within both human and Barzan governments might have prior knowledge of the Void Eater's true nature. This revelation sent ripples of unease through the crew. Trust, already a precious commodity in their dangerous mission, now seemed even more fragile. As Andrew, Celine, and Lyra debated their next move, long-range sensors lit up with alarming news. Multiple Void Eater swarms were converging on key human and Barzan colonies. The weight of their responsibility settled heavily upon them. The Master Control Hub held the potential to end the Void Eater threat once and for all. But could they justify searching for it while innocent lives were in danger? In the tense atmosphere of the Celestial Harmony's bridge, the trio came to a difficult decision. They would split their forces. A small, covert team led by them would continue the search for the hub, while the main fleet would be dispatched to defend the threatened colonies. As preparations began for their daring plan, Andrew looked at Celine and Lyra. The challenges ahead would test not only their newfound abilities, but also the bonds they had formed. The fate of two species hung in the balance, and the path forward was fraught with danger and uncertainty. Yet as their eyes met, a silent understanding passed between them. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Together. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. With that unspoken agreement, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra set their plan into motion. The gravity of their decision took a toll upon them as they began preparations for their covert mission to locate the master control hub. "We need a small team," Andrew said, his eyes scanning the crew manifest on his datapad. "People we can trust implicitly." Celine nodded, her fingers dancing over a holographic display. "I've compiled a list of candidates from both human and Barzan crew members. Their skills complement our own." As they finalized their team selections, the main fleet of the Celestial Harmony prepared for departure. The atmosphere on board was tense, filled with a mixture of grit and apprehension. Crew members exchanged solemn nods and brief embraces, aware of the dangers that lay ahead. Admiral Zhao approached the trio as they stood on the observation deck, watching the fleet's preparations. "The Pegasus is ready for your mission," he said, referring to the smaller, more agile vessel they would be using. "We've rechristened her the Shadow Seeker for this operation." Andrew turned to face the Admiral, extending his hand. "Thank you, Admiral. Good hunting out there." As the main fleet departed to defend the threatened colonies, the Shadow Seeker and its specially selected crew made final preparations. The ship hummed with nervous energy as systems were checked and rechecked. Before embarking on their mission, Andrew, Celine, and Princess Lyra sequestered themselves in a specially designed training chamber. The room pulsed with a combination of Progenitor technology and advanced human and Barzan training systems. "We need to push our abilities to the limit," Lyra said, her skin shimmering with scarcely controlled energy. "We can't afford any mistakes out there." The training sessions were grueling, testing the limits of their enhanced bodies and minds. They moved in perfect synchronization, their abilities complementing and amplifying each other. Energy crackled between them as they faced increasingly complex simulations. During one particularly intense exercise, Andrew found himself backed into a corner by holographic void eaters. Without a word, Celine vaulted over him, her hands trailing arcs of energy that disintegrated the threats. Lyra followed, her body a blur of motion as she cleared a path for them. As they completed the simulation, they stood together, breathing heavily. The air around them seemed to vibrate with the intensity of their connection. Their eyes met, and a spark of something beyond mere companionship passed between them. Later, as they rested between sessions, Celine approached Andrew, her expression concerned. "You're pushing yourself too hard," she said, placing a hand on his arm. The touch sent a jolt through both of them. Andrew covered her hand with his own. "We all are," he replied softly, "but we have to be ready." Lyra joined them, her presence completing the circuit of energy that seemed to flow between the three. "We're stronger together," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We'll face whatever comes as one." The moment was interrupted by an alert from the bridge. They rushed to respond, their bodies still thrumming with the residual energy from their training and the intensity of their connection. On the bridge, they found their navigation officer, Lieutenant Kira, bent over a console. "Ambassadors, Your Highness," she said, straightening as they entered. "Long-range sensors have detected an anomalous energy signature." Andrew leaned in to examine the readings. "It's faint, but there's something familiar about it," he mused. Celine's eyes widened in recognition. "It matches some of the energy patterns we saw in the Progenitor facility on the colony world." "Set a course," Lyra commanded, her royal bearings shining through. "Whatever it is, it might lead us to the master control hub." As the Shadow Seeker altered its course, the trio exchanged glances. Their mission had barely begun, and already they were venturing into the unknown. But as they stood together on the bridge, their perseverance was unshakable. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them united, their bond stronger than ever. The Shadow Seeker glided through space, its advanced stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. As they neared the source of the energy signature, a structure began to take shape on their view screen. It's a Progenitor outpost," Celine breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. The outpost floated serenely in the void, its sleek lines and pulsing energy conduits a stark contrast to the emptiness around it. At first glance, it appeared dormant, but as the Shadow Seeker drew closer, systems began to flicker to life. "We need to board it," Andrew said, already moving toward the shuttle bay. If it contains any information about the Master Control Hub, it could be crucial to our mission. As they approached the outpost in their shuttle, its defense systems suddenly activated. Energy beams lanced out, narrowly missing the small craft. "Evasive maneuvers," Andrew called out, his hands dancing over the controls. Celine closed her eyes, concentrating intensely. A shimmering field of energy enveloped the shuttle, deflecting several blasts. "I'm trying to interface with the outpost systems," Lyra said, her skin glowing as she reached out with her mind. "If I can just... There!" The defenses powered down, allowing the shuttle to dock. As they stepped onto the outpost, the air crackled with ancient energy. The corridors were lined with pulsing conduits and shifting geometric patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. "We should split up," Andrew suggested. "Cover more ground that way." Celine nodded. "Andrew and I will take the main control room. Lyra, can you check out the power core?" As they separated, each felt a pang of unease at being apart. They had grown so accustomed to working as a unit that even this brief separation felt wrong somehow. In the main control room, Andrew and Celine worked in tandem to decrypt the outpost's database. Their enhanced minds processed the alien symbols at an incredible rate, patterns emerging from the chaos. "Look at this," Andrew said, pointing to a holographic display. A star map flickered to life, showing a series of points scattered across the galaxy. Celine leaned in, her breath catching. "Those energy signatures. One of them matches what we believe the Master Control Hub might emit." Meanwhile, Lyra explored the outpost's power core. The chamber hummed with energy, centered around a crystal unlike anything she had ever seen. "Incredible," she murmured, reaching out to touch the crystal. As her fingers made contact, she gasped. Information flooded her mind. The crystal's potential, its compatibility with their ship, the power it could provide. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the outpost. Holographic figures materialized. Progenitor guardians, their forms shifting and twisting in impossible ways. "Intruders detected," they intoned in unison, their voices a cacophony of sounds. "Prepare for termination." The trio found themselves fighting for their lives, their enhanced abilities pushed to the limit against these advanced adversaries. Energy blasts filled the air as they ducked and weaved, using their newfound powers in perfect harmony. In the chaos, Andrew spotted a guardian taking aim at Celine. Without hesitation, he threw himself in front of her, taking the full force of the blast. He stumbled, his connection to the progenitor system suddenly faltering. "Andrew!" Celine cried out, catching him as he fell. Lyra's voice came through their neural link, tight with tension. "We need to get out of here. I'm overloading the power core to create a diversion." As they fought their way back to the shuttle, Lyra's plan took effect. The outpost shuddered as energy surged through its systems, creating a cascade of explosions. They barely made it to the Shadow Seeker before the outpost was engulfed in a brilliant flash of light. As they sped away, the shock wave buffeted their ship, a reminder of how close they had come to disaster. In the aftermath, as Andrew received medical attention, Celine and Lyra began analyzing the data they had retrieved. The star map pointed them towards a remote sector of space, hidden within a dense nebula. "That's where we'll find the Master Control Hub," Celine said, her voice filled with certainty. Lyra nodded, holding up the energy crystal she had managed to take from the outpost. "And this is how we'll get there." As they plotted their course into the unknown, a transmission from the main fleet arrived. The news was grim. Heavy casualties in the battle against the Void Eaters. Their mission had become more critical than ever. The Shadow Seeker's systems pulsed with newfound power as they integrated the Progenitor crystal. As they approached the nebula's edge, Andrew, Celine, and Lyra stood united on the bridge. Their bond, forged in battle and strengthened by shared purpose, would be tested in the trials to come. But as they gazed into the swirling gases ahead, they knew that together, they were ready to face whatever lay within. The swirling gases of the nebula engulfed the Shadow Seeker as it pushed deeper into the cosmic maelstrom. The ship's hull creaked and groaned under the strain, its newly integrated Progenitor crystal pulsing with energy as it fought to maintain stability. Andrew's hands flew over the navigation controls, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We're experiencing severe turbulence," he called out, his voice tense. "The nebula's energy discharges are interfering with our sensors." Celine stood at the science station, her eyes closed as she extended her senses beyond the ship's hull. "I'm detecting fluctuations in the energy field," she reported, adjusting our shields to compensate. Princess Lyra monitored the power distribution, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Rerouting additional power to the forward deflectors," she announced. "It should help us penetrate deeper into the nebula." The trio worked in perfect synchronization, their hybrid abilities allowing them to process and react to the chaotic environment at superhuman speeds. Hours passed as they navigated through the treacherous nebula, each moment a delicate balance between progress and potential disaster. Suddenly, Celine's eyes snapped open. "I'm detecting a massive structure ahead," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." The swirling gases parted, revealing their objective. The Master Control Hub. The enormous space station loomed before them, its design a breathtaking fusion of Progenitor technology and organic components. Pulsating energy conduits crisscrossed its surface, giving the impression of a living, breathing entity. "We've done it," Andrew breathed, a hint of triumph in his voice. "We found the hub." Their moment of victory was short-lived. As the Shadow Seeker approached, the hub's defensive systems roared to life. Energy pulses lanced out from hidden emplacements, while swarms of autonomous drones detached from the station's surface and rocketed towards them. "Evasive maneuvers," Andrew shouted, his hands a blur over the controls. The ship lurched and spun, narrowly avoiding the first volley of attacks. Celine and Lyra locked eyes, a wordless understanding passing between them. They raised their hands in unison, channeling their combined power to create a shimmering energy field around the ship. The protective barrier flickered and sparked as it deflected incoming fire, but held firm. Andrew guided the Shadow Seeker through the onslaught, his movements precise and calculated. Despite his still-healing injury from their previous encounter, he pushed through the pain, fully focused on the task at hand. "There," Lyra called out, pointing to a section of the hub's outer ring. "I've identified a potential docking port." Andrew nodded, adjusting their course. The ship weaved through the last line of defenses, sustaining glancing blows that rocked the hull but failed to penetrate their shields. With a final burst of speed, they reached the docking port, magnetic clamps engaging with a resounding thud. As the team prepared for their infiltration, they donned their specially designed environmental suits. The hybrid technology hummed to life as they activated the suits, interfacing seamlessly with their enhanced physiologies. "Remember," Andrew said as they gathered at the airlock, "we don't know what to expect in there. Stay alert and stay together." The airlock cycled open, and they stepped onto the hub's outer ring. Immediately, warning signals flashed across their suit displays. "The atmosphere," Celine gasped, her voice tight. "It's corrosive to our suits. We need to move quickly." They pushed forward, the hub's internal structure a maze of twisting corridors and pulsating energy conduits. As they navigated deeper into the complex, they encountered a series of security measures that tested the limits of their abilities. Energy barriers sprang to life, forcing the team to quickly recalibrate their suits to pass through safely. Gravity fluctuated wildly, turning simple steps into potential catastrophes. Holographic decoys appeared and vanished, designed to confuse and misdirect. At a junction, the team paused. "We need to split up," Lyra said, her royal bearing evident even through her suit. "I'll lead a team to secure the power core. Andrew, Celine, you head for the central control room." Andrew hesitated, concern etched on his face. "Are you sure that's wise? We're stronger together." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "We don't have a choice. Time is against us, and we need to control both the power core and the main systems to succeed." With reluctance, they separated. As Andrew and Celine made their way toward the central control room, they could feel the absence of Lyra like a physical ache. Their bond, forged through shared trials and enhanced by their hybrid nature, had grown so strong that even this brief separation felt unnatural. They encountered increasingly sophisticated security measures as they neared their objective. Andrew's enhanced strength and agility allowed him to navigate physical obstacles, while Celine's energy manipulation abilities proved invaluable in bypassing force fields and redirecting power flows. Finally, they reached the central control room. The vast chamber stretched out before them, filled with swirling holographic displays and towering columns of pulsating energy. At its center stood a massive console, its surface alive with shifting symbols and pulsing lights. "This is it," Celine breathed, her eyes wide as she took in the scene. "The key to controlling the Void Eaters." As they approached the console, Andrew's instinct screamed a warning. "Celine, wait!" he called out, but it was too late. The moment Celine's hand touched the console, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The air around them shimmered and coalesced, forming into humanoid shapes composed of swirling nanobots. "Intruders detected," the nanobot constructs intoned in unison, their voices in unsettling chorus. "Prepare for termination." Andrew and Celine found themselves back to back, facing a growing army of nanobot adversaries. The constructs advanced, their forms shifting and adapting with each movement. "Any ideas?" Andrew asked, his muscles tensing for the impending fight. Celine's hands began to glow with gathering energy. "Just one, she replied. "Don't hold back." With that, the battle was joined. Andrew and Celine moved in perfect synchronization, their movements a deadly dance honed by countless shared experiences. Andrew's fists blurred as he struck out at the nanobot constructs, his enhanced strength scattering their component parts. Celine unleashed waves of disruptive energy, causing the nanobots to lose cohesion and collapse into inert piles. But for every construct they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The nanobot swarm adapted to their attacks, becoming faster, more resilient. Andrew and Celine found themselves being pushed back, the tide of battle turning against them. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a surge of familiar energy washed over them. Princess Lyra burst into the chamber, her suit crackling with power. "Sorry, I'm late," she called out, her hands already raised to join the fight. With Lyra's arrival, the battle shifted once more. The trio worked in seamless harmony, their combined abilities more than a match for the nanobot constructs. Lyra's mastery of the hub's power systems allowed her to disrupt the nanobots at their source, while Andrew and Celine pressed their advantage. Finally, the last of the constructs collapsed, leaving the central control room silent save for the hum of energy and the heavy breathing of the victorious team. "We don't have much time," Lyra said, moving quickly to the main console. "I've rerouted power from the core, but it won't last long. We need to access the Void Eater command protocols now." As they gathered around the console, holographic displays sprang to life, showing the complexity of the task before them. The command protocols were a labyrinth of alien logic and encrypted safeguards. "This is beyond anything we've encountered," Celine said, her fingers hovering over the controls. "I'm not sure we can decrypt this in time." Andrew's expression hardened with dedication. "We have to try. The fate of both our species depends on it." Lyra studied the displays, her brow furrowed in concentration. "There might be another way," she said slowly. "The hub's systems are designed for direct neural interface. If we combine our abilities, we might be able to bypass the encryption entirely." The implications of her suggestion hung heavy in the air. A direct neural link with the hub's systems could overwhelm their minds, leaving them trapped or worse. Andrew looked at his companions, seeing the same mix of fear and purpose in their eyes that he felt himself. "Together then," he said softly. They positioned themselves around the central console, joining hands to strengthen their connection. As one, they activated their neural interfaces, linking their minds not only to each other, but to the vast alien consciousness of the hub itself. The initial rush of data was overwhelming, threatening to shatter their individual identities. They clung to each other mentally, using their bond as an anchor in the sea of information. Slowly, they began to make sense of the swirling data streams, discerning patterns and pathways. They delved deeper into the hub's systems, uncovering layer after layer of progenitor knowledge. The history of the Void Eaters unfolded before them, revealing the grand design behind their creation and the tragic miscalculation that had set them on their destructive path. With this understanding came the key to reprogramming the Void Eaters. The trio worked in perfect unison, their hybrid physiology allowing them to process and manipulate the complex command structures. As they made progress, the hub began to emit a powerful signal that reverberated through the nebula and beyond. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station, cutting through their shared consciousness. The team's actions had drawn attention, and a massive shape emerged from the depths of the nebula. An apex eater, larger and more formidable than any void eater they had encountered before. The neural link prevented Andrew, Celine, and Lyra from disengaging to defend the hub directly. They could only watch through the hub's sensors as the apex eater approached, its enormous form dwarfing even the massive space station. "We're almost there," Celine's voice echoed in their shared mindscape. "We can't stop now." "The Shadow Seeker and our team will have to hold it off," Andrew added, his mental voice strained with the effort of maintaining the link. Lyra's presence wrapped around them, lending strength and focus. "Then let's finish this, for both our peoples." They redoubled their efforts, racing against time to complete the reprogramming. Outside, the Apex Eater unleashed its first devastating attack on the hub. The entire structure shuddered, systems flickering as power fluctuated. Andrew, Celine, and Lyra remained locked in their neural link, pushing their abilities to the absolute limit. The fate of humanity and all alien species hung in the balance as they neared the final stages of their desperate mission. The hub trembled again under another assault from the Apex Eater. Warning klaxons screamed through the station as systems began to fail. In the shared mindscape of the neural link, the trio pressed on, their combined will the only thing standing between salvation and annihilation. Annihilation in the dawn of a new era for both species. With a final monumental effort, Andrew, Celine, and Lyra pushed through the last barriers of the Void Eater command protocols. Their combined consciousness surged through the hub systems, rewriting core directives and reshaping the very purpose of the cosmic entities that had threatened all life in the galaxy. As the new protocols cascaded outward, the hub emitted a pulse of energy so powerful it momentarily overwhelmed their senses. The trio felt a shock wave ripple through their shared mindscape, threatening to tear them apart. Outside, the Apex Eater's assault faltered. Its massive form, visible through the hub's sensors, writhed in space as if caught in an invisible net. Energy patterns across its surface shifted and realigned, the destructive intent that had driven it now giving way to a new directive. The Shadow Seeker's crew, who had been valiantly defending the hub, reported the sudden change. "The Apex Eater, it's stopping," came the astonished voice of their tactical officer over the comms. "All weapons are powering down." Within the neural link, Andrew, Celine, and Lyra felt the strain of maintaining their connection intensify. The hub's systems, pushed to their limits by the reprogramming and the Apex Eater's attack, began to fluctuate wildly. "We need to disengage," Andrew's mental voice echoed through their shared consciousness. "The hub can't take much more of this." Celine's presence wrapped around them, steadying their connection. "Just a few more moments. We need to ensure the new protocols are fully integrated." Lyra's royal commitment bolstered their drive. "We've come too far to fail now. Push through." As they held on, something extraordinary began to happen. The strain of interfacing with the hub's alien systems at such a deep level triggered latent abilities within their hybrid physiologies. Andrew felt a surge of understanding course through him, complex progenitor technology suddenly becoming as intuitive as breathing. Celine's grasp of energy manipulation expanded exponentially, allowing her to perceive and influence even the most intricate energy matrices. Lyra's form shimmered within the mindscape, her transformation progressing to create a perfect synthesis of human and Barzane traits. With a final collective effort, they completed the integration of the new protocols. The hub system stabilized, and the trio carefully began to disengage from the neural link. As their individual consciousnesses separated, they found themselves back in the physical world, gasping and shaking from the intensity of the experience. Andrew stumbled as he tried to stand, his newly awakened abilities making him hypersensitive to the technology surrounding them. Did it work?" he managed to ask, his voice hoarse. Celine's hands glowed with residual energy as she helped steady him. "I think so," Look, the central display of the control room had come to life, showing a galactic map dotted with countless points of light representing Void Eater entities. As they watched, the chaotic patterns of destruction they had been tracking for so long began to shift. Swarms withdrew from inhabited systems, their energy signatures changing to reflect their new purpose. "We did it," Lyra breathed, her voice filled with wonder. "We actually did it." Their moment of triumph was short-lived as alarms began blaring throughout the hub. Andrew, his enhanced connection to the Progenitor systems, providing instant understanding, quickly accessed a nearby console. "Multiple fleets incoming," he reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "Human, Barzan, and others I don't recognize." The reprogramming signal must have attracted their attention. Celine's eyes widened. "If they get control of this hub, the balance we've just achieved could be shattered," Lyra finished, her royal training kicking in as she assessed the strategic implications. Andrew looked at his companions, seeing the same mixture of commitment and unspoken understanding in their eyes. "We can't let that happen. We need to move the hub." Celine nodded, already reaching out with her expanded powers to interface with the hub's energy systems. "I can channel the nebula's energy into the propulsion systems, but it's going to take everything we've got to make a jump this big." Lyra moved to another console, her fingers dancing across the controls with newfound precision. "I'll handle structural integrity. Andrew, can you plot us a course?" Andrew closed his eyes, feeling the hub's navigation systems as if they were an extension of his own body. "On it. Prepare for faster-than-light jump on my mark." As the incoming fleets entered the nebula, the trio worked in perfect synchronization. Energy from the surrounding nebula surged into the hub, Celine guiding its flow with expert precision. Lyra's enhanced physiology allowed her to make split-second adjustments to the station's structural fields, preparing it for the enormous stress of the jump. Andrew's mind raced through countless calculations, plotting a course to a remote, uninhabited system far from known space. The first ships of the approaching fleets appeared on their sensors just as Andrew opened his eyes. "Now!" he shouted. In a blinding flash of light, the master control hub vanished from the nebula, leaving behind only a turbulent wake of energy. The Shadow Seeker, still docked to the station, was pulled along for the incredible journey. When the disorientation of the jump faded, Andrew, Celine, and Lyra found themselves staring out at an unfamiliar starscape. A distant sun burned softly against the backdrop of space, its light glinting off the uninhabited planets of their new system. "Status report," Lyra called out, her voice steady despite the strain of their escape. Andrew ran a quick systems check, marveling at how easily he could now interface with the hub's technology. "All systems functional. We've successfully relocated to the coordinates I specified." Celine's hands moved gracefully as she manipulated the hub's energy flows, stabilizing their position. "Power levels are returning to normal. I'm establishing a defensive perimeter using the station's energy field generators." As they began to fortify their new position, the weight of what they had accomplished settled over them. The immediate threat of the Void Eaters had been neutralized, but they now faced challenges on an even grander scale. Lyra voiced the thought that hung unspoken between them. "What we've done here, it changes everything. The political landscape of the galaxy will never be the same." Andrew nodded, his expression solemn. "And we're the only ones who truly understand what's happened. The responsibility of managing this new reality falls to us." Celine looked at her companions, feeling the depth of their connection after their shared ordeal. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." As if in response to her words, a priority alert flashed across the hub's communication systems. Andrew's brow furrowed as he accessed the incoming transmission, his eyes widening as he decrypted its contents. "You're not going to believe this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's a message from the progenitors." Celine and Lyra rushed to his side, their faces a mixture of shock and anticipation. As they crowded around the console, the weight of this new revelation settled over them. The story of the Void Eaters, it seemed, was nowhere near the end. A new chapter in galactic history was about to unfold, with the trio standing at its very center. Heart of galactic history. The message from the progenitors hung in the air, a tantalizing glimpse of a civilization long thought extinct. "We need to verify this," Celine said, breaking the stunned silence. "It could be a trap, or some kind of automated system." Andrew nodded, his fingers dancing across the hub's control panel. "I'm running it through every decryption and authentication protocol we have. The technology in this hub is light years beyond anything we've seen before. If there's any trick to this message, we'll find it." As Andrew worked, Lyra paced the room, her royal bearing at odds with the nervous energy radiating from her. If this is real, if the progenitors are truly still out there, it changes everything we thought we knew about the galaxy's history. The trio spent hours analyzing the message, cross-referencing it with the vast databanks of the hub. As the verification process neared completion, they gathered around the main display, tension thick in the air. "It's genuine," Andrew announced, his voice filled with awe. "The encryption key matches progenitor signatures we found in the hub's deepest archives. This message, it's real." Celine leaned in, studying the decrypted text. "It's not just a message, it's an invitation. Coordinates for a rendezvous point." "We can't ignore this," Lyra said, her voice firm. "But we also can't rush in blindly. We need a plan." Andrew nodded, already pulling up star charts on a nearby console. "Agreed. I suggest we convene a strategy meeting. We need to decide our next steps carefully." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The trio used the hub's advanced communication arrays to establish secure links with both human and Brazan leadership. The news of the reprogrammed Void Eaters and the potential discovery of living progenitors sent shockwaves through both societies. As reports of political upheaval trickled in from their respective homeworlds, Andrew, Celine, and Lyra focused on preparing for their next mission. They decided to use the Shadow Seeker for a long-range reconnaissance to the coordinates provided in the progenitor message. "We'll equip the Shadow Seeker with additional progenitor tech from the hub," Andrew explained as they made their way to the docking bay. "It should give us an edge if we run into any trouble out there." Celine nodded, her hands glowing faintly as she interfaced with the hub's energy systems. "I've been studying the hub's power distribution network. I think I can boost the Shadow Seeker's shields and weapons without compromising its stealth capabilities." As they approached the ship, Lyra's communicator chirped. Her face grew serious as she listened to the message. "The Brazan High Council is in an uproar. There are factions pushing for immediate military action to secure progenitor technology. My father's trying to maintain order, but..." Andrew placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "All the more reason for us to find answers quickly. We might be the only ones in a position to prevent a new galactic conflict." The Shadow Seeker's engines hummed to life as the trio boarded. Andrew took the pilot's seat, his enhanced connection to the technology allowing him to interface seamlessly with the ship's controls. As they disengaged from the hub, the vastness of space opened up before them. The coordinates from the progenitor message led to a distant star system on the fringes of known space. "Setting course now," Andrew announced. "Engaging faster-than-light drive in 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred around them as the Shadow Seeker leapt into FTL travel. But something was different this time. The ship's progenitor-enhanced systems began to resonate with the surrounding space in ways they hadn't anticipated. Alarms blared as the ship suddenly dropped out of FTL, far from their intended destination. Celine's hands flew over the control panels, her eyes wide. "We've encountered some kind of spatial anomaly. The progenitor tech is reacting to it." Before they could adjust their course, another surge of energy washed over the ship. The stars outside the view screen shifted, and they found themselves in an entirely different sector of space. "Unplanned jump complete," Andrew reported, his voice tense. "I'm not sure where we are, but I'm picking up signs of a civilization nearby." "And wait, what's that?" The Shadow Seeker's sensors lit up with multiple contacts. As the trio watched in disbelief, they materialized in the middle of a raging space battle between two alien fleets. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void around them, massive capital ships exchanging devastating broadsides. The Shadow Seeker's sudden appearance caused a momentary lull in the fighting as both sides registered the new arrival. "We need to get out of here," Lyra urged, but Andrew shook his head. "We can't risk another jump right now. The Progenitor systems are too unstable. We might end up in an even worse situation." Celine's eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical display. "These species are unknown to us. We have no idea of their capabilities or intentions." As the alien fleets began to reorient towards the Shadow Seeker, Andrew made a split-second decision. "We can't run, and we can't let them destroy each other. We're going to intervene." His hands flew over the controls, activating systems they had only begun to understand. The Shadow Seeker's hull thrummed with power as it unleashed a wave of energy that washed over both fleets. Weapon systems across both sides went dark, leaving the alien ships drifting harmlessly. Andrew opened a channel, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Attention, unknown vessels. We are not here to fight. We offer our assistance in resolving your conflict peacefully." There was a tense moment of silence before a response came through. A holographic image flickered to life in the Shadow Seeker's bridge, revealing a regal, distinctly alien figure. "I am Empress Excelara of the Zarconian Empire," the alien leader announced, her multifaceted eyes studying the trio with keen interest. "Your intervention is unexpected. Perhaps we have much to discuss. Strangers from beyond the stars." Andrew, Celine, and Lyra exchanged glances. Their mission to find the progenitors had taken an unexpected turn, thrusting them into the complex politics of an unknown sector of space. As they prepared to engage in their first diplomatic encounter with the Zarconians, they knew that the true challenges of their journey were only beginning to unfold. As Andrew, Celine, and Lyra prepared to engage in their first diplomatic encounter with the Zarconians, the Shadow Seeker's sensors suddenly lit up with multiple new contacts. "We've got company," Andrew announced, his fingers flying over the controls. "Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. They're not Zarconian." Celine's eyes widened as she analyzed the data. "It's a coalition fleet. They must have tracked us somehow." Before they could react, a familiar voice crackled over the comm system. "Shadow Seeker, this is Princess Vexalia of the Zarconian Empire. Stand down and prepare to be boarded." Lyra exchanged a worried glance with her companions. "How did she find us?" There was no time to ponder the question. The coalition ships moved to surround them, their weapons primed and ready. Andrew made a split-second decision. "Hold on," he shouted, engaging the Shadow Seeker's enhanced cloaking systems. The ship shimmered and vanished from view, leaving the coalition fleet momentarily confused. As they slipped past the blockade, alarms blared throughout the ship. "We're pushing the systems too hard," Celine warned, her hands dancing over the control panel. "We need to set down somewhere and make repairs." Andrew nodded, already plotting a course. "I'm picking up a habitable planet nearby. Designation P789. It's our best shot." The Shadow Seeker streaked through space, its cloaking field flickering dangerously as they pushed it beyond its limits. They entered the planet's atmosphere in a barely controlled descent, the ship's hull groaning under the strain. With a bone-jarring thud, they touched down in a clearing surrounded by dense alien vegetation. As the engines powered down, the trio took a moment to catch their breath. "We can't stay here long," Lyra said, already moving towards the exit. "We need to secure the perimeter and assess the damage." As they stepped out onto the alien world, a figure emerged from the shadows of the forest. Andrew's hand went to his weapon, but he froze when he recognized the being before them. "Impossible!" Celine breathed. The alien's form shimmered with an otherworldly energy, its features both familiar and utterly alien. "I am Zephyrus," it announced in a voice that seemed to resonate through their very bones. "I am what you would call a progenitor." The revelation stunned the group into silence. Here on this remote world, they had stumbled upon a living member of the ancient race they had been seeking. Zephyrus approached, its eyes scanning the damaged ship. "Your vessel bears the mark of our technology. How came you by such things?" Before they could answer, the sound of ships entering the atmosphere shattered the moment. The coalition fleet had found them? "We don't have much time," Andrew said urgently. "We need your help. The future of the cosmos may depend on it." Zephyrus considered for a moment, then nodded. Very well. I will assist you in your escape. But know this. The path you have chosen is fraught with danger. The truth you seek may be more than you are prepared to bear. As the coalition ships descended towards their position, Zephyrus raised its hands. Energy crackled around them, and the Shadow Seeker began to glow with an otherworldly light. I have temporarily enhanced your vessel's capabilities, Zephyrus explained. It will be enough to break through the blockade, but we must act quickly. The group rushed back to the ship, Zephyrus following close behind. As they boarded, Andrew's enhanced connection to the technology allowed him to feel the new power coursing through the systems. Prepare for immediate takeoff, he called out, his hands flying over the controls with newfound precision. The Shadow Seeker rose into the air just as the first coalition ships touched down. Princess Vexalia emerged from one, her face a mask of dedication as she saw their quarry escaping. After them, she commanded, but it was too late. The Shadow Seeker shot into the sky, its enhanced systems easily outpacing the pursuing ships. As they broke through the atmosphere, Andrew engaged the faster-than-light drive, following a complex series of jump coordinates provided by Zephyrus. The stars blurred around them as they made jump after jump, each one taking them further from known space. When they finally dropped back into normal space, they found themselves in a region of the galaxy none of them recognized. Where are we? Lyra asked, her voice filled with awe as she stared out at the unfamiliar starscape. Zephyrus moved to the center of the bridge, its form seeming to pulse with energy. We are approaching the threshold of a hidden sanctuary, it explained. Here, the last of my kind have slumbered for millennia, waiting for the day when we would be needed once more. As the Progenitor spoke, the ship's systems began to behave erratically. Power surges caused consoles to spark, and the life support systems fluctuated dangerously. The integration of Progenitor technology is causing instabilities, Celine reported, her fingers dancing over the controls as she fought to maintain equilibrium. Andrew gritted his teeth, feeling the strain through his connection to the ship. We're pushing it too hard. We need to stabilize or we'll tear ourselves apart. Lyra stepped forward, her hybrid physiology allowing her to sense the energy flows within the ship. Without hesitation, she placed her hands on the main control panel, closing her eyes in concentration. Energy crackled around her as she interfaced directly with the ship's core systems. The erratic fluctuations began to smooth out, but the effort clearly took its toll. Lyra's face contorted in pain as she channeled the volatile energies. Lyra, stop, Andrew called out, but she shook her head. I can do this, she gritted out, her body trembling with the strain. Princess Vexalia, who had been silently observing until now, moved to Lyra's side. Allow me to assist, she said, her voice uncharacteristically gentle. My people have some experience with energy manipulation. Together, Lyra and Vexalia worked to stabilize the ship's systems, their combined efforts bringing the chaotic energies under control. As the last of the fluctuations subsided, Lyra collapsed, caught by Andrew before she could hit the floor. Thank you, Celine said to Vexalia, surprise evident in her voice. The Zarconian princess nodded, a small smile on her face. We may have our differences, but I have no desire to see this ship torn apart with us inside it. As the tension on the bridge eased, Zephyrus approached the main viewport. We are nearly there, it announced. Prepare yourselves for the final jump sequence. But before Andrew could initiate the jump, a massive energy signature appeared on their long-range sensors. The readings were like nothing they had ever seen before, dwarfing even the power of the Progenitor technology they had encountered. Zephyrus's form flickered, its voice filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. It has found us. The extra-galactic entity has entered our galaxy. The crew of the Shadow Seeker stared at the approaching energy signature, the weight of their situation settling over them. They stood at a crossroads with the fate of not just their mission, but potentially the entire galaxy hanging in the balance. Andrew's mind raced, formulating a plan even as the enormity of the threat threatened to overwhelm him. He turned to his companions, his expression resolute. We have a choice to make, he began, and not much time to make it. Andrew's voice was steady, his eyes fixed on the approaching energy signature. We can run, or we can stand and fight. Celine nodded, her hands already moving across the control panel. If we run, we're just delaying the inevitable. This entity will keep coming, and we might not get another chance to face it with allies. Princess Vex'ahlia straightened, her regal bearing on full display. The Zarconian Empire does not flee from battle. We stand with you. As if in response to their decision, the extra-galactic entity launched its first assault. Tendrils of destructive force lashed out, tearing through the shields of the nearby Zarconian ships. The Shadow Seeker rocked violently, alarms blaring throughout the vessel. Andrew's eyes glazed over as he fully embraced his newly awakened abilities, interfacing directly with the ship's weapon systems. His consciousness expanded, linking with the remaining Zarconian vessels. "I'm coordinating our attack pattern," he called out, his voice distant. "Celine, I need you to amplify our energy weapons." Celine's hands danced over the controls, channeling her power through the Progenitor enhanced systems. The ship hummed with increasing energy as she pushed the weapons to their limits. Princess Lyra and Princess Vex'ahlia moved in tandem, their earlier cooperation evolving into a seamless partnership. Lyra's hybrid physiology allowed her to redirect power to critical systems, while Vex'ahlia's energy manipulation techniques created additional layers of protection against the entity's relentless attacks. The battle raged around them, the void of space lit up with energy discharges and explosions. Andrew's coordinated assault targeted weak points in the entity's energy matrix, each hit causing the massive form to fluctuate and ripple. Zephyrus, its form shimmering with nearly unleashed power, spoke urgently. "The entity is drawn to concentrated sources of progenitor energy, but this is also its weakness. A specific frequency of that energy could destabilize its entire structure." Andrew's eyes widened as a plan formed in his mind. "We need to get closer, right into the heart of that thing." "That's suicide," Vex'ahlia protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "It's our only chance," Celine countered, already adjusting the ship's systems for the daring maneuver. Andrew took manual control, piloting the Shadow Seeker on a perilous course directly toward the center of the entity. Celine and Lyra combined their abilities, generating a massive surge of progenitor energy. Vex'ahlia, setting aside her reservations, used her diplomatic skills to coordinate the remaining Zarconian ships into a supporting formation. As they approached the entity's core, the Shadow Seeker was bombarded with intense gravitational forces and energy discharges. The ship's hull creaked under the strain, systems failing one by one. "We're losing structural integrity," Celine shouted over the cacophony of alarms. In that moment of desperation, Andrew made a decision. "Everyone, join hands. Form a circle around Zephyrus." Without questioning, they complied. As their hands linked, a surge of energy passed between them. Their hybrid abilities resonated with Zephyrus's ancient power, creating a harmonic energy field that enveloped the ship. "Now, Andrew," Zephyrus commanded. With a final burst of speed, Andrew plunged the Shadow Seeker into the very center of the extra-galactic entity. The team unleashed their accumulated energy in a blinding explosion of progenitor power. The entity's form began to destabilize, its vast mass collapsing in on itself as the targeted energy frequency disrupted its cohesion. The Shadow Seeker was caught in the maelstrom, tossed about like a leaf in a hurricane. Andrew, drawing on reserves of strength he didn't know he possessed, interfaced with the ship's jump drive. In a maneuver that defied conventional physics, he executed a series of micro-jumps, weaving the Shadow Seeker through the collapsing form of the entity. They emerged on the other side, the Zarconian fleet following their lead. Behind them, the entity imploded, creating a massive shockwave that threatened to overtake them. "Brace for impact!" Andrew yelled, pushing the engines beyond their limits. The shockwave hit them like a physical wall, sending the Shadow Seeker tumbling through space. For several heart-stopping moments, it seemed as if they would be torn apart. Then gradually the turbulence subsided. As the crew regained their bearings, they watched in awe as the remnants of the extra-galactic entity scattered harmlessly into space. The threat that had loomed over the galaxy was no more. Exhausted but triumphant, Andrew turned to his companions. "We did it," he breathed, disbelief and joy mingling in his voice. Celine smiled, her usual composure cracking to reveal her relief. We did, but our journey's not over yet. Zephyrus nodded solemnly. Indeed, the coordinates to our sanctuary await. It is time for you to meet the rest of my kind. As the Shadow Seeker and its allies set course for the hidden Progenitor sanctuary, the team knew that while one chapter of their adventure had closed, another was just beginning. The fate of humanity and all alien species now rested on what they would discover in the realm of the ancient progenitors.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.